Chapter 709. Leave him to die. Ah! Lee Delay screamed. He thought he was going to die, but he realized that he didn't feel anything. He was surprised. Huh? It didn't hit me? However, when Lee Delay looked down, he realized that his body was full of silver needles. Each of them shone under the lights of the restaurant. It was eerie and scary. These needles were on his body? Lee Delay was shocked. He didn't know what technique Lin Yi used, but he wasn't stupid. He knew that it wasn't a normal technique and he wasn't playing with him. Lin Yi's technique against his subordinates was much sharper than this one. How could it be easier for him to deal with his subordinates? It was obviously impossible, but he didn't know what Lin Yi was trying to do. What did you do to me? What are these needles for? Lee Delay asked in fear as he raised his hands. There was a needle in each of his hands. Pull it out and you'll know. Lin Yi said faintly, but you better not pull it out. Hurry up and call your cousin. If Lin Yi didn't say it, Lee Delay would have pulled the needles out, but he didn't dare to do it after Lin Yi said it. Lin Yi's words were scary. Who knew what would happen? Lin Yi didn't care if Lee Delay removed the needles or not. He turned to Meng Yao Yushu and Tang Yun. Let's go to another place. We won't eat here. Lee Delay could only smile bitterly. He didn't expect things to end up like this. He could only watch Lin Yi, Meng Yao Yushu and Tang Yun leave. However, Yushu didn't seem to want to leave. She turned around and looked at the needles on Lee Delay's body curiously. Shield bro, what are those? Can I pull one out and try? Don't pull it out. He'll die if you pull it out, Lin Yi said. Oh, I see. Forget it then. I don't want to kill anyone. Yushu shook her head. Then let him die on his own. Lee Delay sweated. Would he really die if he pulled the needles out? He didn't know, but Yushu's words almost angered him to death. The four walked out of the restaurant, and Meng Yao pushed Yushu to the side when she saw that she was still waving her hands around excitedly. Shu, get in the car first. Oh. Yushu nodded and got in the car first. Meng Yao then turned to Tang Yun. I'm sorry, Tang Yun, I wanted to treat you to a meal. I didn't think it would turn out like this. Shu's always like that, always causing trouble. Don't mind her, you'll get used to it. Tang Yun didn't expect Meng Yao to explain things to her. Was this how Meng Yao's arrogant miss was? Yun didn't think it. Or was it because Meng Yao was easy to get along with? Tang Yun shook her head. It's nothing. No one wants to encounter something like this. It's just that this restaurant went overboard. Meng Yao sighed in relief when she saw that Tang Yun wasn't unhappy. She did come to thank Tang Yun today. No matter if they had conflicts in the past or if they were competitors, Meng Yao really wanted to treat Tang Yun to a meal today. She was afraid that Tang Yun would think that Yushu brought her to this place on purpose and mess things up. It's good that I met Lee Delay. I wanted to test him too. Lin Yi waved his hand. Let's get in the car. Meng Yao and Tang Yun didn't understand Lin Yi's words. Why was it good to meet Lee Delay? But since Lin Yi didn't say it out loud, they didn't ask. Meng Yao didn't want Tang Yun to look down on her. She wanted to use her identity as an employer to pry into Lin Yi's privacy. Tang Yun had the same idea. She didn't want Meng Yao to think that she was a busybody and didn't give Lin Yi any personal space. After getting in the car, Meng Yao asked Yushu, Shu, let's go to another restaurant. Don't look for another one like this. Where did you hear about this restaurant? I saw it on the internet. They said it's really romantic here and... Ugh, it's nothing, I just wanted to take a look. Yushu stopped herself from blurting out the sex toys she'd been talking about. There's nothing to experience. Don't believe these advertisements. Meng Yao didn't have a good impression of this restaurant. She decided not to come here anymore. Oh, I know another one. Yushu wanted to say something but was interrupted by Meng Yao. Okay, let's go to my family's hotel. Meng Yao didn't want any more trouble. She felt safer at her own hotel. Tang Yun's heart skipped a beat when she heard Meng Yao's words. The difference between her and Meng Yao was too big. Her family had a hotel but she didn't even have a house. This was the only thing that made Tang Yun feel inferior in front of Lin Yi. She wasn't any worse than Meng Yao and Yushu in terms of looks, but Lin Yi's best choice was either Meng Yao or Yushu. Plus, Yushu seemed to want to be a buy one get one free a small wife. Tang Yun had a headache. Lin Yi didn't know that Tang Yun was thinking so much. He drove to Pingzhan Hotel. Pingzhan had a family dinner here before and Lin Yi attended it. Pingzhan had planned to have a party like this every week, but because of the falling chandelier, it was postponed. Today was the second time Lin Yi came to Pingzhan Hotel, But it was crowded here. The cars in front of the hotel weren't less than Starlight Hotel. However, the cars here were more business-oriented. Although they were luxurious, there were very few sports cars. It seemed that Pingzhan's hotel focused on business and meetings, while Starlight Hotel focused on entertainment. Most of the rich kids went there. Lin Yi drove the car into the parking lot, and a security guard directed Lin Yi to park the car. Meng Yao and Yushu rarely appeared here. Even when they had a meal with Pingzhan, they would sit in Faubert's car and drive into the internal parking lot. They would go through the staff passageway so the security guards didn't know who the miss was. Meng Yao, on the other hand, didn't put on the airs of a Mississippi. She kept a low profile as she entered the hotel lobby with Yushu, Tang Yun and Lin Yi. They got themselves a room and went upstairs. Chapter 7:10. The common ground. From Tang Yun's perspective, those rich young masters or daughters in those soap operas would always have a CEO with them when they went to their families' hotels and malls, flattering them. This was also why Tang Yun felt that there was a gap between her and the miss. But now it seemed that the miss really was low-key. No one here knew her and she didn't act like a miss at all. Meng Yao may have grown up in a rich family, but she didn't develop a domineering personality. One reason was because Pingzhan's upbringing was strict, and the other was because the miss was a lonely person. She didn't make friends easily. Yushu was the only good friend she'd had since she was young, and the others weren't that good. Thus, the miss wasn't led astray by bad friends. They both didn't have a mother's love, and this caused Meng Yao and Xiao Xiao to have extreme personalities. They had one thing in common, and that was that they didn't have too many friends. Meng Yao only had Yushu and Xiao Xiao didn't have any. But the miss was better than Xiao Xiao in the sense that her mother wasn't dead. There was still hope. And with Shu's company she wasn't that lonely. Xiao Xiao, on the other hand, had nothing and she had a terminal illness. She could only squander her life to realize the value of her short life. Entering the room, Meng Yao gave the menu and machine to Tang Yun for her to order. But Tang Yun had never been to such a high-class restaurant before. She flipped through 2 pages and was shocked by the price. Why was it so expensive? One dish was enough to cover her family's food expenses for more than a week. Plus, this place had a buffet system. After seeing the dish on the menu, she just had to enter a code into the machine, and it would show if the kitchen could cook the dish or not. But Tang Yun didn't know how to use this thing. I don't know how to order. You do it. Tang Yun was honest. She was poor and there was no need to pretend in front of Meng Yao. She handed the menu and machine back to Meng Yao. Meng Yao could guess Tang Yun's dilemma. She took the menu and ordered a few dishes without saying anything. She didn't want to eat things like bird's nest and shark's fin since she didn't like it. But considering Tang Yun, she ordered bird's nest porridge and passed the menu to Yushu. Yushu flipped through the menu, only finding shark fins and no shark meat. He was a little disappointed. Yao Yao, I suggest Uncle Chu add shark meat. Meng Yao was speechless. Why would her daddy care so much? He even had to order the dishes for the hotel? After some thought he asked, do you want to eat shark meat? A little, but I don't know if it's as good as Shield Bros. Yushu gulped. Tang Yun felt a little uncomfortable. Did Lin Yi cook for them every day? Then ask the waiter if he can make it. What else do you want to eat? Meng Yao asked. Nope. Yushu shook her head. Alright then. Lin Yi, what about you? Meng Yao wasn't as calm as before in front of Lin Yi, but that was only in her heart. On the surface, her attitude towards Lin Yi was like ice, just like when Lin Yi first moved in. But was it really the same? Perhaps only Meng Yao herself could explain it clearly. Or perhaps she didn't understand it herself. This is enough. I'm not picky when it comes to food. Lin Yi was telling the truth. Ever since he was young, he'd always been the one to pick his food. Wherever he went, he'd have to get used to the local food. Deep in the mountains, however, there was no food at all. Lin Yi ate whatever he could get his hands on. He had no choice at all. Meng Yao nodded and called the waiter over. She passed the machine to the waiter and asked, do you have shark meat here? Shark meat? The waiter paused and said, please wait, I'll ask for you. With that, the waiter picked up the walkie-talkie and asked. After getting a confirmation from the kitchen, he said, yes, miss. How would you like to cook it? Can it be barbecued? I want to eat barbecued shark meat. Yushu said. Alright, I'll ask for you. The waiter said and asked the kitchen in detail. Yes, but this dish is specially made for you. The price might be a little higher. Is it acceptable? It's around 600 yuan. Sure. Meng Yao nodded faintly. The price was nothing to her. She didn't have a concept of money. Although she wouldn't buy a whole house full of luxury goods like those gold diggers, she didn't care about the price either. The waiter ordered the barbecued shark meat through the walkie-talkie before bringing the drinks over. Mengyao ordered fruit juice since they were both girls and Lin Yi was driving. There was no need to drink to keep up appearances. Tang Yun, thank you for what you did today. Mengyao raised her glass and said to Tang Yun. She hesitated and mocked herself, but it seems like we still can't be friends. Mengyao was really touched by Tang Yun's action of calling Lin Yi today. But even if she was touched, she wouldn't compromise for her own happiness. Tang Yun wanted to take Lin Yi away from the villa. She couldn't do that. If Lin Yi left, where would she find another person who cared for her so much? Of course, the miss never thought that she would like Lin Yi. Lin Yi was such a playboy. How could she like him? I understand. Tang Yun nodded. She didn't think that the conflict between them could be resolved by the miss treating her to a meal. I called Lin Yi because I didn't want to use this method to defeat my competitor. Huh. Mengyao smiled but didn't explain. Tang Yun didn't understand her dependence on Lin Yi. Oh yeah sis, let's not talk about this topic. It's so boring. Yushu couldn't interrupt the conversation between the miss and Tang Yun. He changed the topic. Haha, then let's not talk about it. Mengyao drank the juice in her glass and signaled to Tang Yun. Tang Yun also picked up her glass and drank the juice. He accepted Mengyao's thanks. Actually, Tang Yun didn't think that Mengyao would thank her so seriously. The relationship between the two was too weird. She wasn't used to eating together like this. Chapter 711. Chapter 0711. Dealing with bad guys. Tang Yun, how did you and Shield Bro get together? Yushu really wanted to know the answer. Lin Yi had only been in Songshan for a month, right? Why do you call him Shield Bro? Tang Yun didn't answer and asked back. She didn't understand what Shield Bro meant. Shield Bro, it's because... Yushu didn't finish her sentence and was interrupted by Mengyao. Ahem, Shield Bro means that Shu feels that Lin Yi is like a shield. He can shield us from the wind and rain and deal with troubles. Mengyao didn't want Yushu to say what Shield Bro meant. That would be awkward. What if she told Yushu that she hired Lin Yi to be a shield but didn't use him because he wasn't good enough? Tang Yun would laugh herself to death if that happened. Mengyao regretted letting Lin Yi pretend to be her boyfriend back then. She wouldn't have had a chance with Tang Yun if she'd let him pretend to be her boyfriend. Oh, I see. Tang Yun nodded. She didn't suspect anything. This was what a bodyguard and follower should do. She just didn't know that Lin Yi was hired by Mengyao to pretend to be her boyfriend. It was just that the nature of the job changed after that. Lin Yi sat on the side and didn't say anything. He didn't know what to say. All this time Lin Yi couldn't see through the Mississippi. What kind of attitude did she have towards him? Lin Yi even thought that the miss really liked him when he saw the miss fighting with Tang Yun. But when he got home it didn't seem to be the case. The miss had hidden herself very well and no one knew what she was thinking. Perhaps what Yushu saw was only the surface of the miss's personality. Similarly, Yushu should be the same. The miss only saw Yushu on the surface. Lin Yi didn't believe that Yushu was that dumb. The feeling she gave Lin Yi was that Yushu was smarter than anyone. It was just that she liked living like this. She was happy and carefree. But while the two sisters hid their feelings deeply, their feelings for each other were real and their care for each other was real as well. This was something that Lin Yi admired, especially after Yushu found out that Mengyao had fainted. Not many people were able to do that, even if it meant going through thick and thin together. It's your turn. How did you get together with Shield Bro? Yushu continued. Lin Yi and I. Tang Yun looked at Lin Yi and seeing that he didn't stop her, she started to speak. Thinking about what happened between her and Lin Yi, it was funny. Lin Yi probably didn't have that kind of feelings for her. It was just that after the incident with Zhou Ruoming, she naturally had a defensive mentality. She also thought that Lin Yi was a rich kid who wanted to hit on her. But a series of things happened. Lin Yi helped her a few times. The relationship between the two seemed to get closer. But if they were to talk about a real breakthrough, it was probably when Lin Yi came to her house for the first time. He met Xiaofan and wanted to jump off the building. Was that when she started to like Lin Yi? Tang Yun shook her head. He didn't remember. She didn't know how she fell in love with Lin Yi and got together with him. Tang Yun seemed to be talking to herself, but it also seemed like she was reminiscing. She told Yushu and Mengyao about what happened between her and Lin Yi. It was only now that Mengyao understood how helpless Tang Yun was when she was harassed by Zhou Ruoming. Because of her identity, she never thought that a guy could be so bad, so immoral, and so shameless when it came to pursuing a girl. Other than Pinliang, Mengyao didn't have any other harassers at school. Everyone knew who she was and no one dared to do anything to her. Even Pinliang had Yushu teasing him every day. Mengyao didn't have that kind of helplessness or fear in front of Pinliang. But then again, Pinliang dared to kidnap her even though she was the Mississippi. Wouldn't roaming be even more reckless if Tang Yun didn't have an identity or background? She thought to herself. If it wasn't for Lin Yi, one could imagine what would happen to Tang Yun. Before, Mengyao thought that the bullying and harassing of girls in school was very far away from her. He even thought that it was just a rumor. However, after hearing Tang Yun's words, she realized that these things were happening around her. It was just that she didn't know about it. Thinking about the relationship between Lin Yi and Tang Yun, it was a beautiful love story. The hero saving the beauty. How cliché. But it was an unchanging story that had been passed down for thousands of years. Wasn't the legend of the white snake the same? After listening to Tang Yun's story, Mengyao didn't hate Tang Yun that much. She even sympathized with her. But sympathy was sympathy. Who would sympathize with her? She finally had the feeling of being cared for and cared for. She wouldn't allow anyone to take that away. Oh, if anyone pursues you in the future, leave it to me. I guarantee that they will return in failure. Look, Yao Yao Sis's pursuers already had their kidneys cut out. Yushu said. I specialize in dealing with evil people. Yushu was joking, but Mengyao understood what she was implying. She believed that Tang Yin understood as well. She didn't need Lin Yi's help. She could stop her love rival from harassing her. That's all. Tang Yun also felt that Yushu wasn't stupid at all. He was terrifyingly smart. Because you couldn't tell which words were true and which were false. It seemed like a joke, but there were a lot of hidden meanings. Oh, that's boring. Yushu was a little disappointed. Pinliang's a cripple now and Ruoming's a coward now. We don't even know who to play with in school anymore. Your mission is to study hard. Don't play with people. Mengyao said to Yushu. Okay, I won't play then. I'll listen to Yao Yao Sis. Yushu nodded and turned to Lin Yi. Shield bro, you need to study hard too. Otherwise, you won't be able to get into the same university as us. Tang Yun was speechless. Get into the same university? Are you guys not going to let Lin Yi go for the rest of his life? You want him to be your follower for life? Why would he get into the same university? Watch him flirt. Mengyao frowned and said subconsciously. But after saying that, she felt that it wasn't appropriate. Tang Yun was still sitting in front of her. Wasn't she talking about Lin Yi and Tang Yun? Chapter 7:12. I can't be with you forever. Of course. Tang Yun nodded. That was her decision all along. Since she'd taken this step, she'd keep going. If Lin Yi didn't want her, she'd die in front of him. Oh, then can you accept Shield Bro's womanizing? Yushu continued. Or can you accept him having other wives? Tang Yun was stunned by Yushu's question. What kind of question was that? What did he mean by she could accept him having other wives? How could he accept it? I'm sure it's not just me, other girls won't be able to accept it either. Well, Tang Yun was about to say that she couldn't accept it, but she swallowed it back down. Was this a trap set up by Yushu? It seemed that there were girls who could accept the fact that Lin Yi had another wife, Mengyao and Yushu. Didn't the two of them claim that they wanted to be Lin Yi's first and second wives? They even wanted to play 3P together. Tang Yun was at a loss. This Yushu wasn't as dumb as she looked. Talking to her was really scary. One misstep and he would fall into the trap. Every single one of Yushu's questions was so tricky that it wasn't easy to answer. Tang Yin thought that Yushu might use that as an excuse to attack her if she didn't accept it. She might say, you can't accept it but we can. Wouldn't that make him seem a little stingy and weak? But to say that she could accept it. Tang Yin really couldn't. Why did he have to accept other wives? Wasn't he just looking for trouble for himself? But seeing that Yushu was looking at her, Tang Yun knew that she had to answer. She'd already made up her mind to be Xiao Xiao's mistress, so what if she accepted a wife? Thus, he gritted his teeth and forced himself to say, that depends on what kind of wife it is. Tang Yun's answer was ambiguous. The initiative was in her hands. In other words, whether she accepted or not, it was up to her. She also did not give any criteria for judging. However, even so, Tang Yun's answer was out of Lin Yi's expectations. Tang Yun could accept him having another girl? Oh, what do you think about me being Shield Bro's concubine? Sister Yao Yao is the first wife and you are the second wife? Or you can be the main wife, you guys decide. I'll be the second wife. Yushu said. Tang Yun didn't expect Yushu to say something like this. Wasn't this putting her in a difficult position? Should I accept it or not? He was a little reluctant to accept it, but if he said no, wouldn't that be saying that Yushu wasn't good enough? Wouldn't that offend someone? Ugh. What nonsense are you talking about? Meng Yao frowned. Yushu was getting more and more out of hand. She quickly stopped her. Why isn't the food here yet? Let's see if I can shut your mouth later. I'll stop, I was just saying. Yushu said with a wave of her hand. Tang Yun, she was always like this. She's always talking nonsense. I want to send her to the mental hospital. Meng Yao explained, blushing a little. Yushu had brought her in earlier, and it made Meng Yao feel uncomfortable all over. Oh Yao sis, don't send me to the mental hospital. Yushu exclaimed. There's nothing fun there. Meng Yao was speechless. Tang Yun was the same. Yushu didn't want to go to the mental hospital because there's nothing fun there? It's nothing, I'm getting used to it. Tang Yun touched her forehead and smiled bitterly. Linny didn't interrupt. How was he supposed to interrupt? This topic seemed to be beneficial to him. Soon the food was served. The shark meat Yushu ordered was also placed on the table. It didn't take long for all the dishes to be ready. One had to admit that Pigeon Hotel was quite efficient. Alright, the dishes are ready. I wanted to say something to thank you, but I'm not really good with words. Linny knows that I don't really talk much. Meng Yao wanted to say something before the meal, but she rarely spoke in a situation like this. She didn't know what to say. But before she could finish, she saw Yushu sneakily picking up a piece of shark meat and putting it into her mouth. Meng Yao angrily smashed Yushu's hand with her chopsticks, knocking the shark meat into her bowl. Shu, what are you doing? I'm trying to see if it's good. Yushu looked like she was about to cry. She rubbed her wrist. Oh, I almost got crippled. The guest hasn't eaten yet, how can you eat first? Meng Yao scolded. How would I know? I'm always the one eating first at home. Yushu said weakly. It's nothing, let her eat first. Tang Yun saw how pitiful Yushu was and stopped Meng Yao from getting angry. She didn't have any rules, it didn't matter who ate first. I'm sorry. This Shu. Meng Yao rubbed her temples. You need to have a good mentality to live with her. Tang Yun shook her head. Yushu was a little weird, but living with her would be fun. There were two sides to everything. However, Tang Yun quickly threw this thought to the back of her head. Live with Yushu? She couldn't really let her be Lin Yi's small wife, right? Yushu continued eating the shark meat but shook her head after one bite. It's not as good as Shield Bro's cooking. Lin Yi can't be with you for the rest of your life. You need to learn how to adapt to life. Meng Yao glared at Yushu. Yushu didn't say anything and continued eating the shark meat. The atmosphere became heavy. Tang Yun didn't know what to say. She looked at Yushu's pitiful face and didn't know what to say. Could she let Lin Yi be her nanny for the rest of his life? What about herself? Although Meng Yao tried her best to maintain the atmosphere of the meal, the more she tried, the stranger the atmosphere became. Tang Yun felt uncomfortable. She felt that Meng Yao and Yushu were two strong rivals. After the meal, Meng Yao took out her VIP card when they were paying the bill, and the waiter in charge of the room froze. She didn't expect Meng Yao to have a diamond card here. The diamond card was a VIP card issued by Pingzhan Industries. There were less than 100 of them. Chapter 7:13. Pig's Brain. The waiter's attitude was much more respectful than before as he carefully took Meng Yao's diamond card and left the room. After a while the door opened again, but it wasn't the waiter who came in. It was a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man walked quickly to Meng Yao and said respectfully, "Miss, you're here. Why didn't you call me? I could have arranged a VIP room for you." This middle-aged man was the CEO of Pingzhan Hotel. His surname was Liu and he was 35 or 36 years old. Now that Pingzhan's words were like the sun in the sky, most of the decisions in the board of directors were made by Pingzhan alone. As a result, the people in charge of the other industries were all feeling insecure. Those who were close to the other shareholders were now trying to switch their allegiance to Pingzhan. It couldn't be helped. Pingzhan wasn't only the biggest shareholder of the group, but he also had the second biggest shareholder, Lin Yi, as his proxy. This meant that he had the two most important votes in the group and no one dared to oppose him. Manager Lu didn't know that the second biggest shareholder of the company was sitting right in front of him. If he knew, he'd be scared to death. I don't want to trouble you. Meng Yao frowned. She didn't think that Manager Lu would come in person. She wouldn't have taken out the VIP card if she knew. Meng Yao didn't go to the VIP room because she really didn't want to. She really didn't like the feeling of being recognized as the Miss and being surrounded by people like stars around the moon. Meng Yao really didn't like that feeling. So Meng Yao chose to keep a low profile and ask for a private room. But now that Manager Lu was here, Meng Yao was afraid that Tang Yun would misunderstand and think that she was looking down on her by not bringing her to the VIP room. The Miss hesitated and thought of a solution. Manager Lu, you still have a VIP card, right? Get one for my friend and I'll talk to Faubert. The people in charge of the industries had the right to introduce and apply for VIP cards, but the highest level diamond card had to be approved by the headquarters before it could be applied. So if it wasn't a very important client, Manager Lu wouldn't apply for a diamond card. Meng Yao said that she wanted to talk to Faubert, so naturally she wanted to apply for a diamond card. Manager Lu quickly nodded. How could the group not approve something that Missy had asked for? Moreover, eldest Miss was going to tell Faubert. Tang Yun, on the other hand, didn't think too much about it. If Meng Yao acted like a miss the moment she arrived, it would look like she was showing off in front of Tang Yun. On the other hand, Tang Yun felt that the miss was still keeping a low profile. Tang Yin only realized that the VIP card Meng Yao wanted was for her when they went downstairs. She shook her head quickly. I can't afford it even if it's for me. The prices here are too high. Tang Yun told the truth. There was nothing to be embarrassed about. The miss knew about her family's situation. You can also go to Pingzhan Mall, there's a discount there too. Meng Yao explained. I usually go to the night market to buy it. Tang Yun still rejected. This thing was useless to her and the card was precious. She didn't want to owe Meng Yao a favor. Then let's give it to Lin Yi. Since Meng Yao had already said it, it wouldn't be nice to refuse. It would be the same if it was given to Lin Yi. Manager Lu felt that the name Lin Yi was familiar. Or had he heard it before? However, it wasn't nice to ask in front of the Mississippi. He quickly applied for a diamond card for Lin Yi. After the miss left, Manager Lu picked up the phone and reported to Faubert. The moment he mentioned Lin Yi, Faubert's answer shocked Manager Lu. Lin Yi was the second biggest shareholder of the company that had shown his face once. He was said to be Pingzhan's son-in-law. Why would someone like him need a membership card? However, thinking about how the miss was low-profile and how Lin Yi was also a low-profile person, Manager Lu felt extremely honored. He was able to apply for a card for the second biggest shareholder of the group, especially when the person who introduced him was him. Li Delay watched as Lin Yi, Meng Yao, Yushu and Tang Yun walked out of the Western restaurant. He regretted his lust. He was scared when he saw his underlings lying on the ground. However, he didn't forget Lin Yi's words. He quickly picked up the phone and called his cousin. There were so many needles in his hands and body. He didn't know what was so special about them. However, he didn't dare to pull them out casually. After all, Lin Yi told him that he would die if he pulled them out. Although he didn't believe it, he had to believe it when he thought about Lin Yi's skills. The reason was simple. Li Delay was the leader of these people. Lin Yi even beat his underlings to the ground. How could he let him go? Hello? Lazy? What's up? Tihua was troubled. The poisoning plan failed and he didn't know how to deal with Lin Yi. He received a call from his cousin, but he didn't know what he was going to do. Cousin, you have to help me. The place was destroyed and I'm stuck with needles all over my body. I don't dare to pull them out. Li Delay said with a sad face. His only hope was for Tihua to avenge him. Your restaurant was destroyed? You're covered in needles? What do you mean? What happened? Tell me in detail. Tihua's heart skipped a beat. The more troubled he was, the more trouble he'd get himself into. His brother was usually fine and everyone in the underworld knew that he was his cousin. They'd give him some face, so why was there a problem today? It's like this. Li Delay didn't dare to hide it and told Tihua everything. He couldn't hide it even if he wanted to. There were people in the Western restaurant, and the scarred man was Tihua's direct subordinate. He was just sent to watch over the place. Fuck. You're a pig brain. Do you have nothing better to do? There are women everywhere. Aren't you afraid of ruining your business by flirting with customers? Don't you know that your restaurant still has to pay to the owner every month? Sihua was furious. His brother was too arrogant. However, he couldn't just ignore his brother. They pierced needles in your hands and body? Don't you know how to go to the hospital? What's the point of calling me? Li Delay froze. Yeah, why was he so obedient? What he should do now was to go to the hospital, not call his cousin. His cousin wasn't a doctor and he couldn't treat the needles in his body. Chapter 7:14. Nothing. Li Delay hung up the phone and found a lackey who wasn't lying on the ground to accompany him to the First People's Hospital. Li Delay felt embarrassed under everyone's surprised gazes. Everyone in the hospital looked at him as if he was a monster. After all, he was covered in silver needles like a porcupine. Those who didn't know the truth would think that something was wrong with him. Li Delay didn't dare to stay any longer and went straight to the surgery consultation room. He was a gangster and his underlings often got injured from conflicts with others, so he was familiar with the surgeons here. Wang bro, help. Quick, help me check the silver needles on my body. Li Delay saw a familiar face. It was Dr. Wang from the surgery department. Dr. Wang didn't have anything to do at the moment and was stunned when he saw Delay. He asked curiously, "Boss Li, what happened to you? Did you get acupuncture?" "Acupuncture my ass. I was stabbed by someone." Li Delay was speechless. He gritted his teeth when he thought of Lin Yi. "That person told me that he wouldn't let me pull it out. He said that he would die if I pulled it out. That's why I rushed to the hospital." "Dr. Wang, you're knowledgeable. Can you take a look at me?" "He would die if he pulled it out." It was the first time Dr. Wang heard of this. How many needles were stuck in his body? He was fine when they were inserted, but he would die if he pulled it out. Was he trying to scare him? Dr. Wang didn't believe it, but he didn't dare to ignore Li Delay's explanation. "I've never seen it before. How about I get the chief of our department to take a look at you?" That's fine. Thank you, Wang bro." Li Delay felt embarrassed and didn't want too many people to know about it. However, he couldn't care too much since it was a matter of life and death. After a while, Dr. Wang brought an old man over and let Li Delay take a look. The old man didn't see anything special about the needles. If the needles were poisoned, Li Delay would have died a long time ago. It didn't matter whether he pulled it out or not. If it wasn't poisoned, he wouldn't die even if he pulled it out. The needles were only inserted in a shallow area and didn't hurt his organs. How could he die after pulling it out? However, the old man wasn't stupid. He didn't say anything since he knew about Li Delay's condition. "I personally think it's fine. I can pull it out for you, but if anything happens, the hospital won't be responsible." Li Delay suddenly felt guilty. He thought that it wouldn't be a problem to pull out a few small needles in the hospital, but the old specialist in the hospital said that he wasn't confident, so how could he pull them out? Li had no choice. He could only call Delay's phone again. Li Delay called Sihua again. But the hospital said that they won't be responsible if anything happens after the needle is removed. Li Delay panicked. "Brother, can you help me think of a solution? What should I do?" Sihua didn't expect his cousin to be so useless, but the severity of the situation made it seem like he couldn't just ignore it. "Wait, I'll go take a look now." Sihua asked which hospital and ward Li Delay was in and rushed over. Li looked at Li Delay was, Li, and Li, isn't he a porcupine? Why are there thorns all over his body? Even the hospital can't pull it out? Li Sihua looked at the needles on Li Delay's body and didn't think there was anything wrong. "Yeah, Wang bro and the specialist said that they can't pull it out. They won't be responsible if anything happens." Li Delay nodded. "Wait here, I'll go ask." Li Sihua walked into the surgery room and saw Dr. Wang. Dr. Wang naturally knew Li Sihua. He was one of the most powerful people in the city. He didn't dare to neglect him and quickly walked over. "Sihua bro?" "Dr. Wang, how's my cousin's condition?" Sihua nodded. He didn't bother with small talk and went straight to the point. "Actually, according to my judgment, he's fine." Dr. Wang told the truth. The needles aren't deep, so it's impossible to hurt his organs. It's nonsense to say that he'll die if he pulls it out. If you say that the needles are poisonous, it doesn't matter if you pull it out or not. You'll be poisoned even if you don't pull it out. Besides, there are needles on Boss Li's hands, so there aren't any fatal spots. What do you mean? Li Sihua felt that Dr. Wang was right. What fatal spots could there be on the hands? The problem is that your brother's words are scary. He said that he'll die if the needles are pulled out. No one can bear this responsibility. It's better to be safe than sorry, isn't it? Dr. Wang smiled bitterly. Li Zihua nodded. He understood Dr. Wang's difficulty. Li Delay was his cousin, and if something happened he was afraid that Li Delay would cause trouble for him. How about we pull out the needles on his hands first? I think there won't be any problems. Even if there's a problem, I'll take responsibility. What do you think? Li Zihua pondered and asked. He couldn't let his brother live like a porcupine, right? He had to solve it eventually. After this, Li Zihua still had to return to Master Bing's place to discuss countermeasures. They had to deal with Lin Yi. It wasn't as simple as breaking Master Bing's legs and killing Zhang Long and Li Yao. They had to destroy a skyscraper. Lin Yi casually used a few forklifts and bombs and 100 million was gone. Master Bing only demolished his girlfriend's bungalow, but Li Yao demolished a skyscraper. How cruel. He can pull out the needles himself. Zihua bro, why don't you help him? Dr. Wang naturally didn't want to do it. Who would do such a risky thing? Alright then, help me look after him. If there's a problem we can deal with it in time. Li Zihua nodded and agreed. Li Delay saw his cousin coming out with Dr. Wang and quickly asked, Bro, how is it? I'll help you pull out the needles first. There aren't any fatal spots on your hands, so it should be fine. Many people live with broken arms and legs, don't they? Li Zihua said. Li Delay thought about it and agreed. He nodded and said to Zihua, Alright, pull out the needles on my hands first. Pulling out a needle wasn't a big deal. Zihua easily pulled out the needles on Li Delay's left hand. Li Delay's hand didn't even bleed. Chapter 7:15. It can't be cured, only an idiot like you would believe it. Zihua sneered, Haven't you seen Tang Bo who touch autumn fragrance? Isn't that what Hanxiao half-step bumpy is like? Li Delay blushed. He was too careful. How could he be tricked like this? How embarrassing. How could he live in the underworld if this got out? I'm sorry bro, I made you suffer. Li Delay said embarrassedly and turned to Dr. Wang. Dr. Wang, please keep this a secret. Don't worry, it's normal for a doctor to keep a secret for his patient, not to mention Boss Li. Dr. Wang was happy to pretend that he didn't know since it had nothing to do with him. Alright, don't embarrass yourself here. Hurry up and pull out the rest of the needles. Zihua glared at Li Delay. Yes. Li Delay nodded and wanted to use his left hand to pull out the needles on other parts of his body. However, he realized that his left hand couldn't move when he lifted his arm. He wanted to pinch the needles, but he couldn't feel his fingers at all. Even his entire hand couldn't feel anything. What are you doing? Zihua didn't know what happened to Li Delay when he didn't move. Bro, my hand. I can't move my hand. Li Delay stared at his left hand in fear. He couldn't feel his left hand at all. He could move his arm, but he couldn't control anything above his wrist. Can't move? What do you mean? Zihua was stunned. Bro, I can't move my left hand. It doesn't feel like it's mine. I can't feel it at all. Li Delay said and shook his left arm, but he still couldn't feel anything. How is this possible? Zihua frowned and looked at Li Delay's left hand carefully. He didn't find anything wrong, so he turned to Dr. Wang. Dr. Wang, what do you think is going on? Dr. Wang was surprised. Li Delay's left hand was fine before the needles were pulled out. How come he couldn't feel anything after the needles were pulled out? Is it numb? Let's wait and see. Dr. Wang had never seen anything like this before. No, it's definitely not numb. I don't feel anything at all. It's as if this hand isn't mine anymore. Li Delay shook his head continuously. What's wrong? Li Delay shook his head. Does it have anything to do with the silver needle? Zihua looked at Li Delay's hand suspiciously. It's hard to say. Dr. Wang didn't know whether it was related or not. In short, he had never seen a similar situation. So now, Zihua could only hope that Dr. Wang had a solution. Now we can only take an X-ray first. If there are no problems, do a comprehensive examination and wait for the conclusion to come out, Dr. Wang suggested. All right. Zihua nodded and asked Dr. Wang to bring Li Delay for a checkup. As for the other needles on Li Delay's body, he didn't dare to pull them out. He could only leave them there. Although it was a little unsightly and eye-catching, Who could guarantee that the situation of losing feeling in the left hand would not happen again after these silver needles were removed? Whether or not there was a connection between the two was still hard to say. Soon, Li Dilei's results came out. However, the results made both Li Dilei and Sihua pale. Hand nerve necrosis? The Li brothers widened their eyes when they saw the results. This is only the nerve, but according to the system's examination, the muscle tissue of the hand is also showing signs of necrosis. Dr. Wang also felt that it was inexplicable. The nerves and muscles were all necrotic after being pricked by a silver needle? Wasn't this a little too inconceivable? The strangest thing was that there was no poison on the needle at all. It was just a normal needle. Then what should we do now? Can it be cured? Sihua asked. We can try, but it's best to amputate the left hand immediately to prevent the necrosis from affecting the arm, Dr. Wang said. Sihua frowned. There was no need to describe how shocked he was. Who did Li Dilei offend? Why was he being harmed like this? He couldn't help but yell at Li Dilei. What's his background? Who exactly did you provoke? I know. He's just here to eat. Li Dilei was also terrified. He was dumbfounded when he heard Dr. Wang saying that he might have to amputate his hand. Wasn't this too scary? Here to eat. Think carefully. Is there any information? What's his name? What does he look like? Sihua asked. I remember. There's a girl called Tang Yun among them. Li Dilei was sensitive to beautiful girls' names, so he remembered Tang Yun's name. Tang Yun. Sihua's expression froze. It couldn't be such a coincidence, right? Tang Yun. Wasn't that Lin Yi's girlfriend? Yes, that's her name. I can't remember the guy who attacked me, but his surname is Lin. Li Dilei didn't notice his cousin's expression as he tried to recall with his eyes closed. Lin. Is his name Lin Yi? Sihua took a deep breath and tried to control his emotions. Yes, his name is Lin Yi. Brother, do you know this person? Can you ask him to save me? Li Dilei was overjoyed when he heard that his cousin knew this person. I do. A complicated expression flashed across Sihua's eyes. But he won't come to save you. He won't come? Li Dilei was in despair. Why? Brother, please beg him. I can give him as much money as he wants. I can even hold a banquet to apologize to him. I don't want to lose my hands. I have a deep grudge against him. No wonder he wasn't afraid after hearing my name. Sihua sighed. You shouldn't have used my name. You're just looking for trouble for yourself. Sihua sighed. You shouldn't have used my name. Ah? A deep grudge. Li Dilei was dumbfounded. How would he know that Lin Yi and Sihua had a grudge against each other? Whenever he used his cousin's name, people would respect him. Li Dilei didn't expect to meet Sihua's enemy. Chapter 7:16. Seeking help from Yaowang. Sihua immediately called Master Bing. After hearing Li Dilei's condition, Master Bing didn't care and agreed to let Yaowang take a look at him. After all, half of Li Dilei's restaurant's income was given to House Xiao. As House Xiao's illegitimate son, Master Bing naturally couldn't ignore the people who worked for House Xiao. Besides, Sihua also wanted to introduce his cousin to Master Bing. Working for Master Bing would give him a bright future. Li Dilei sighed in relief after knowing that Master Bing was willing to help. He heard that Master Bing had many masters around him, so he wasn't afraid that his problem couldn't be solved. In a private room at the back of the floating cloud, Yaowang frowned as he looked at Li Dilei's body. Yaowang, how is it? My cousin's problem. Sihua knew that the problem was serious when Yaowang didn't speak. Yaowang came from an ancient medical family. Not only was he an expert in poisons, but he was also an expert in medicine, especially the art of harming people. That was why Yaowang didn't think much when he heard that Li Dilei was stabbed with a few silver needles and lost feeling in his left hand after they were pulled out. He thought that it was some kind of poison or acupoint sealing technique. Speaking of harming people, his family was the ancestor of harming people. Was there a problem that couldn't be solved? It was just a small trick. However, when Yaowang saw Li Dilei, he realized that his thinking was too simple. There was no poison on Li Dilei's silver needles. Yaowang had tested it on a white mouse with the silver needle he pulled out. It didn't seem like it was done through acupoint sealing either. Li Dilei's hand wasn't immobile like it was after his acupoint was sealed. Instead, it was slowly necrotizing. His entire hand had turned a dark purple color as if the tissue of his hand was destroyed. It's not looking good. The opponent is a master. Who did it? Do you know who he is? Yao Wang didn't dare to be careless. It was the first time he saw such a method of harming people. It was far beyond the methods in his sect. It was unbelievable. Lin Yi. Sihua gritted his teeth when he said the name. What? Lin Yi? Yao Wang was no stranger to this name. Uncle Zhu was beaten half to death by Lin Yi and was still lying in bed. Zhao Qibing's legs were also broken by Lin Yi and he could only rest in a wheelchair. Lin Yi again? Zhao Qibing heard the name and panicked. Isn't he injured? How can it harm others? It's hard to say. Yao Wang shook his head. From the way he uses the silver needles, it's hard to say if Lin Yi is a medical expert. So you're saying that Lin Yi recovered his strength by himself? Qibing's eyes widened and Uncle Zhu, who was lying on the bed, almost spat out blood. Uncle Zhu felt wronged. He almost died and went to see the King of Hell, but Lin Yi was perfectly fine. He was still alive and kicking. How could he harm people? Was there any justice? I'm not sure if he recovered his strength, but even if he's not at his peak, it shouldn't affect his movements. Yao Wang's expression was serious as he carefully checked the silver needles on Li Dilei's body. Of course, Li Dilei was the most pitiful. Even Yao Wang couldn't do anything? Didn't that mean he could only wait for death? His left hand had turned black and purple. It was clearly necrotic. He would definitely lose his hand. But Li Dilei wasn't in the mood to think about whether he lost his hand or not. It was already good enough that he could stay alive. Master Bing Yao Wang. Save me. Li Dilei's face was covered in tears and mucus. He was scared out of his wits. Yao Wang suddenly paused and his expression became more serious. There's pure energy under the silver needles? Li Dilei was just a normal person. He didn't practice any internal or external martial arts, so it was impossible for him to have pure energy in his body. Even if there was a trace of pure energy, he wouldn't be able to detect it. However, Yao Wang felt an obvious fluctuation of pure energy under the needle. What was going on? What do you mean? Now my cousin can be saved? Sihua froze and asked quickly. Li Dilei looked at Yao Wang helplessly. He didn't want to die. I'm not sure yet, but I need to do some research. Yao Wang said, I need to pull out another needle, but it might cause the same result as this left hand. I might also find a way to cure it. Li Dilei was dumbfounded. Pull out another needle? Or should he pull it out? He looked at the silver needles all over his body and didn't know where to pull it out. Think about it yourself. This is the only way, Yao Wang said. How about pulling out the silver needles on my left arm? My left hand is useless anyway. It won't affect me too much if I do it again. Sihua thought about it and asked. Okay. Li Dilei gritted his teeth. He had no other choice. He could not sleep at night, right? If he accidentally dropped the silver needles while he was sleeping, he would be waiting for death. Yao Wang nodded and signaled Li Dilei to extend his left arm. Then he quickly pulled out the silver needles on Li Dilei's left arm. After the silver needles were removed, Yao Wang moved again at lightning speed and grabbed the spot where the silver needles were. I can't move my left arm either. Although Li Dilei predicted this outcome, he still had some expectations. Now that he couldn't feel his left arm, he wanted to cry but no tears came out. Yang, how is it? Sihua saw Yao Wang open his eyes and quickly asked. My left arm is useless. Yao Wang took a deep breath and said, but I think I know what they did. What did they do? Sihua asked. Lin Yi attached his pure energy to the tip of the silver needles and injected it into Li Dilei's body. Then he used the needles to seal the pure energy so that it wouldn't spread in Li Dilei's body. Yao Wang said, as long as the silver needles are pulled out, the pure energy will spread rapidly. Li Dilei is a normal person and his body can't handle such a strong pure energy invading his body. This caused the pure energy to rupture his meridians and muscle tissues, causing his nerves and tissues to die. He felt it with his hand before. Although there was pure energy on the silver needles, it was only at one point. After the silver needles were pulled out, the pure energy at that point spread rapidly. Chapter 7:17. Even a god can't save him. Lin Yi is a medical master, he's not weaker than me. Although I can see through this method, I don't have a solution, at least not yet. Yao Wang smiled bitterly. Even his master wouldn't be able to do this, let alone him. This method was too cunning, he would die as soon as the needles were pulled out. Uncle Zhu was shocked as well. He knew that he didn't lose unjustly. His opponent was a medical master who wasn't any weaker than Yao Wang. Wasn't he still alive and kicking? What should we do now? Sihua asked. There's nothing I can do for now. Yao Wang shook his head. Unless someone can dissolve the pure energy in Li Dilei's body the moment I remove the needles, it will cause severe damage to his body and meridians. Sihua's face turned ugly. Even Yao Wang couldn't do anything, so how could Li Dilei be saved? The needles couldn't be pulled out for a day or two, but they couldn't be pulled out forever, right? Judging from the position of the needles, Li Dilei's body would probably be necrotic after they were pulled out. Whoever started the trouble should untie it. We belong to different sects, so our methods are different. I don't understand their methods, so there's nothing I can do. Yao Wang blamed it all on the fact that he wasn't from the same sect as Lin Yi. It wasn't because he was useless, but because different sects had different methods. Yang, you want me to look for Lin Yi? Sihua's expression was strange. What was the use of looking for Lin Yi now? Their hatred was like fire and water, so there was no way to resolve it. Or I can ask someone from my sect and see if they have a solution, Yao Wang said. Thank you, Yao Wang. Sihua quickly thanked him. Sihua thanked Lin Yi profusely. He wouldn't have begged Lin Yi if there was even a sliver of hope, since asking for Lin Yi's help would just be asking for humiliation. All I can do is ask. After all, different sects have different research directions. The Medicine King was trying to absolve his sect of responsibility. I understand. Sihua nodded. Yao Wang then called his sect, but they couldn't come up with a solution. Firstly, they didn't see Li Dilei in person, and secondly, it was the first time they heard of such a method. How was it? Sihua quickly asked after Yao Wang ended the call. Li Dilei looked hopeful as well. There's a way, but there's no way to do it. Yao Wang would not directly say that there was no way. That would make his sect seem too useless. You can't control it? No matter how difficult it is, as long as you can save Li Dilei's life. Sihua quickly said, what do you need? Just tell me, Yao Wang. I need a master above the earth class to quickly dissolve the pure energy in Li Dilei's body when I remove the needles. The Medicine King said, however, this would consume a lot of that person's innate qi. Normally, no one would risk their strength to do this. What the Yao Wang said was a more common method, but no one would take the risk. After all, who didn't train hard to get their strength? Why should he waste his true qi for an outsider? Wouldn't he be an idiot? Yao Wang's words were like a bucket of cold water. Sihua instantly lost his temper. Where could he find an earth class master? The mystic class was already a phoenix's feather, let alone an earth class? Even if he found one, he wasn't related to Li Dilei. Why would he risk his own level to save Li Dilei? Sihua really didn't want to look for Lin Yi, but he couldn't just watch his cousin die, right? Bro, why don't you look for Lin Yi? You have to try. If he doesn't care, then I'll just die and blame my bad luck. Li Dilei didn't have any thoughts of revenge at all. There was no other reason. Even Master Bing was crippled by Lin Yi. Who was he? With his strength, going to Lin Yi for revenge was **t. If Lin Yi was so easy to take revenge on, would Master Bing still be sitting in a wheelchair? Sihua thought about it and couldn't help but look at Master Bing. After all, Master Bing and Lin Yi had a huge grudge. If he begged Lin Yi now, wouldn't he be showing his weakness? Dilei did a lot for House Xiao. I can't just watch him die, can I? Master Bing waved his hand. Just pretend that I don't know. It's also a good chance to test Lin Yi. One had to admit that Master Bing was good at buying people's hearts. This was also the reason why House Zhong's father and son worked so hard for him. He didn't need to spend a single cent to do Sihua and Li Dilei a favor. Sihua and Li Dilei were grateful. Sihua said, "Thank you, Master Bing. We're very lucky to be able to work for you. Right, hurry up and look for Lin Yi. Earning more money for House Zhao and me is more important than anything else." Master Bing waved his hand. Master Bing waved his hand. His hatred for Lin Yi deepened as he pondered on how to get rid of Lin Yi once and for all. It would be best if he could kill him in one move so that he couldn't fight back. Otherwise, with a dangerous person like Lin Yi in Songshan, he had to be cautious in everything he did. He didn't know how he met Lin Yi. How could he live if Lin Yi messed with him again? Sihua dialed Lin Yi's number right away, not daring to delay. Lin Yi's number wasn't anything secretive and it was easy to get it. Sihua had gotten it from Jiangwen long ago. Lin Yi, Meng Yao, Yushu and Tang Yun just got in the car when his phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello." Lin Yi picked up. "Is this Lin Yi?" I'm Sihua. Sihua was furious on the inside but he looked calm on the outside. Oh Sihua bro, what's up? Lin Yi heard Sihua's calm tone and asked faintly as if he didn't know why Sihua called. However, this Sihua bro sounded a little ironic in Sihua's ears. Did Lin Yi need to call him bro? It seemed like he didn't need it at all. This was the second time Sihua had a direct conversation with Lin Yi. The first time was in the floating cloud bar where he'd used threats and promises, but Lin Yi didn't even give a damn about him. Lin Yi had even killed the 2 golden class masters beside him, and Sihua had lost a lot of money. Forget it, let's not beat around the bush. You're the one who caused my cousin Li Delay's injury, right? Sihua decided not to pretend anymore. The conflict between him and Lin Yi was irreconcilable. Chapter 7:18. Make him wish he was dead. Sihua was quite pissed off. It really was this idiot who pulled out the needles. But he knew that he couldn't get angry right now. Lin Yi, I hope you can let my cousin go. I don't want to drag other people into our feud. Are you an idiot? Sihua's words made Lin Yi a little impatient. He'd be dead already if I were to count what happened between us. How could he still be standing? Besides, I only did it because he pissed me off. Sihua was speechless at Lin Yi's words. He had to admit that Lin Yi's words were quite infuriating. Then, can you let him go? Sihua said awkwardly after a couple of coughs. He's not dead yet, why would I let him go? You don't have to call me if he's dying. Lin Yi said. Besides, don't you have a master with you? He can make deadly 7 herbs poison. You think he can't solve a small problem like this? Alright, I'm busy and the pretty girl needs me to drive. Bye. Lin Yi didn't wait for Sihua's reply before hanging up. Sihua looked at the disconnected phone, troubled. You're very busy, huh? Did he think he was a cowboy? But he didn't dare say that out loud. He had to keep calling Lin Yi. Oh shield bro, is that landmine dead? Yushu asked after Lin Yi finished the call. I don't think so, but he's dying soon? Lin Yi didn't know how many needles Sihua had pulled out. Man, it's no fun if he's dead. Yushu said with a shake of her head. Shield bro, can you make him wish he was dead? I guess. Lin Yi said. But I can't see him now and I can't be bothered to save him. Oh, I guess that Sihua will call again. Maybe you can make his little brother wish he was dead? Yushu suggested. Yushu hadn't even finished her sentence when Lin Yi's phone rang again. Hey, didn't I tell you I have something to do? You don't understand me, do you? Lin Yi wasn't polite at all. Lin Yi, I'm at my wit's end. That's why I'm calling you. I'm sure you understand. Afraid that Lin Yi would hang up again, Sihua said in one breath. Save my brother's life. Tell me whatever you want. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was taken aback. It seemed that the master beside Zhao Qibing wasn't that great after all. At the very least, he wasn't as strong as him. Uncle Tang's leg is broken. You can pay for the medical fees. Lin Yi was prepared to listen to Yushu's opinion and make Li Delay suffer. However, a fate worse than death was still better than death, right? As a result, Lin Yi didn't plan on doing it for free. He wanted Sihua to pay a price for it. No problem, I'll take out 3. Sihua wanted to take out 300,000 but was interrupted by Lin Yi. 3 million. I'll tell you an account. If you don't see the money before dark, you don't have to give it to me. Use this money to buy a better coffin and grave for your cousin. Lin Yi thought that Tang Yin's family would need at least 1 or 2 million to buy a house, so 3 million wasn't too much. He just needed to go out for a stroll and meet an unlucky bastard who gave him the money for the house. All right. Sihua was a man who did big things. Although his heart ached when he heard that Lin Yi wanted 3 million, it wasn't much to save his brother's life. Lin Yi didn't have much cash on hand right now. The 100 million he got from Lu Tianyi and the money from the auction were all invested into the medical company. If he wanted to expand, he would need a lot of money. So, although Lin Yi had a big family business, he didn't have much money on hand. Lin Yi texted Sihua the bank account Mrs. Tang gave him and waited for the money to come in. Tang Yin wanted to say something but Meng Yao and Yushu were there. She didn't say anything and let Lin Yi do it. Fortunately, Tang Yin comforted herself that it was for her father's medical fees. She didn't feel bad taking it. If she took so much from Lin Yi, she would owe him more and more. Oh shield bro, didn't you want to make him suffer? Why did you save him? Yushu asked. Doesn't that mean he's still alive? Lin Yi smiled. Ha! Yushu started laughing happily. Shield bro, you're so bad. You're almost the same as me. I'm not as bad as you. Linny shrugged. Yushu was better than him when it came to messing with people. Tang Yin and Meng Yao couldn't help but laugh. The miss didn't know much about money, but she was surprised that Linny was able to get 3 million right off the bat. So Linny was this good? How could he get so much money so easily? Judging from his expression, he didn't seem to care about money at all. Meng Yao started to get nervous. Did she always threaten him with Lin Yi's salary? Wasn't it a joke to him? But Meng Yao was getting more and more confused. Why would Lin Yi come to work for her? With Lin Yi's skills and methods, there was no need for him to work for her for 30,000. Where did her dad find such a master? Yao Shu, where are you guys going now? Lin Yi turned around and asked. Tang Yin and I are going to the night market to buy something? We're going too, right, Yao Yao sis? Yushu winked at Meng Yao. Meng Yao wanted to go. I want to eat fried mushrooms. Yao Yao sis, can you come with me? Yushu held Meng Yao's hand. Okay, let's go together. Meng Yao nodded. Tang Yin pouted unhappily. Why did they have to tag along when she was going on a date with Lin Yi? But Tang Yin couldn't say anything. The miss just treated them. How could she chase them away? That wasn't right. Lin Yi didn't say much. If the miss wanted to go, then go. Lin Yi started the car and drove towards the night market. On the way, Tang Yin received a call. It was from Mrs. Tang. Mom? What's up? Tang Yin didn't know why her mother would call her at this time. Didn't she know that she was going out with Lin Yi? Usually, her mother wouldn't bother her when she was on a date with Lin Yi. Chapter 719. Saving her life. However, even though she didn't know much about mobile banking, she had often read about text fraud in newspapers. So when Mrs. Tang received 3 million yuan out of nowhere, she was shocked. She didn't know what to do. It's here. Tang Yun paused. It's not a scam, it's Lin Yi's medical fees from Qibing Real Estate. Lin Yi's medical fees? That means it's real? Mrs. Tang was overjoyed. I'll go check the bank right now. I've never seen so much money in my life. Mrs. Tang was overjoyed. She had been worried about buying a house tomorrow, but now that she had 3 million, it was enough to buy any kind of house. Lin Yi was amazing. He broke Qibing's leg and didn't ask for medical fees. Instead, he asked for 3 million. Old Tang's leg was worth it. And Tang Yun didn't say anything else and hung up. Tang Yun wasn't afraid of Meng Yao knowing that her family was poor, but she was afraid that they would laugh at her if they knew how greedy her mother was. Not long after Tang Yun received the call, Lin Yi received a call from Tsihua. Lin Yi, I've transferred the money to the account you gave me. When can I save my brother? Tsihua said straightforwardly. His relationship with Lin Yi was purely based on benefits. There was no need for pleasantries. Oh, I'll tell you how to save him. You can do it yourself. Lin Yi said casually. Just find a surgeon and cut off the flesh in a 2-centimeter radius around the needle. You'll be done with it. What? Cut off the flesh. Tsihua's eyes widened when he heard Lin Yi's words. Are you messing with me? I'm not messing with you because of 3 million. Lin Yi said faintly. Tell my words to the doctor beside you. He'll know if I'm right or not. I don't have time to waste with you. This is the only way to save your brother's life. All right, I'll believe you for now. Tsihua took a deep breath, suppressing his anger. Lin Yi didn't pay him any attention, hanging up the phone right away. It had been a long time since he'd been ignored like this. Even House Xiao wouldn't look down on him like this. But Tsihua couldn't hold it against Lin Yi. It wasn't the first or second day he'd wanted to kill Lin Yi, and as long as he didn't kill him, he'd have to endure it. Tsihua didn't dare delay and repeated Lin Yi's words to Yao Wang, only for Yao Wang to slap his forehead and exclaim, "Why didn't I think of that?" Since this true qi was not easy to get rid of, wouldn't it be better to just dig it up and throw it away? It's actually so simple. Tsihua paused at Yao Wang's reaction. Does that mean that Lin Yi's idea will work? Yes, it's the only way to save Li Delay. Li Delay will have to suffer a little, but it's not a problem to keep his life, Yao Wang said. Is it possible that Lin Yi purposely used this cruel method because he had other methods? Tsihua was suspicious. From his point of view, Lin Yi wouldn't say anything good. He would only say something bad. I don't think so. After all, it'll take a lot of effort to take back the true qi. Even if Lin Yi could do it, he wouldn't lower his strength for 3 million. Yao Wang shook his head. I'm afraid that Lin Yi hasn't fully recovered yet. He's only slightly stronger than Mr. Zhu. He won't risk his life to treat Li Delay. Even 300 million is impossible, let alone 3 million. Sihua felt much better after listening to Yao Wang's explanation. Since there was a solution, let's do it as soon as possible. Yushu laughed out loud after listening to Lin Yi and Sihua's solution. She felt that she and Shield Bro were fated to be together. They were both evil and didn't even blink when messing with people. Li Delay would probably be riddled with holes now. Meng Yao and Tang Yun also felt that it was satisfying. As long as he didn't kill anyone, it was fine to punish Li Delay. Lin Yi parked the car in front of the night market. When he stopped, he saw a few modified sports cars like Hyundai and Geely Jaguar. Lin Yi paused. It should be the people he met last time. Xiao Xiao was there, but now a familiar figure was missing. He didn't know what Xiao Xiao was doing in Yanjing. Why wasn't she back yet? When Xiao Xiao was here, Lin Yi was a bit annoyed by her, but now that she was gone, he would miss her without a desk mate. He even promised her that he would treat her to a meal. Those people didn't pay much attention to Lin Yi's Beetle. It wasn't a sports car and they weren't interested in racing with Lin Yi. Evidently they had forgotten about Lin Yi. Lin Yi and Tang Yun walked at the back while the Miss and Yushu walked in front. The four of them entered the night market. Meng Yao and Yushu had never bought anything from the street stalls of the night market before. They'd always go straight for the street food when they came here before, and they'd never stopped here before. It was quite a sight to behold, and it was quite a bustling place. The clothes here are so pretty. It's the same as the latest designs from Hong Kong and Taiwan. They can't even be sold in the shops. Yushu looked at the clothes curiously. They're all imitations. The quality is way worse. The price is only 1/10 or even 1/100th of the original. Tang Yun saw that Yushu was excited as if she had found a treasure. She was afraid that Yushu would be tricked. I see. Yao Yao, why don't we buy two? Even if it's street stalls, people will think that we're buying the real thing. Yushu said. Tang Yun couldn't help but sigh. It was true. Even if Meng Yao and Yushu wore 10 Kuai street stalls, no one would believe them. But even if she wore the real thing, people would think that it was an imitation, right? Let's take a look then. Meng Yao was a little tempted. After all, many of the styles were new. The four came to a street stall that seemed to be of good quality. Tang Yun chose a pair of shorts for herself. Meng Yao and Yushu each chose a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. They asked for the price. It was 300 Kuai. The Miss and Yushu didn't know how much it was worth. Tang Yun didn't know how to bargain, so the job was left to Lin Yi. Is it cheaper? Lin Yi asked the owner. 208 is the lowest. The owner could see that Meng Yao and Yushu were rich, so he didn't lower the price too much. Chapter 720. The joy of haggling. The boss paused. He was about to say that he said 208, not 200, but Lin Yi's next words made the boss pause. 200 was still too expensive? Only 150? He raised his head and looked at Lin Yi. It didn't seem like he was joking. His heart tightened. Did he meet someone who knew the trade? The girls from before obviously didn't know the market. They didn't even ask for the price before choosing the goods. He thought that he had met a fat sheep, but the person who was paying was behind him. 150 won't do. 180. 170. The boss wanted to say 180, but he didn't want others to hear it as 100 and lose money for nothing. He quickly changed it to 170. In fact, he could sell it for 170, but the profit would be a little less. He thought that he could make a lot of money, but it turned out to be less than what he earned normally. The gap was too big and he couldn't accept it. 150 was close to the capital, so it didn't matter whether he sold it or not. 150 it is. I used to sell this kind of thing. Lin Yi said and pointed to a person selling clothes not far away. Brother, do you see that? I used to set up a stall with him at Chaonan. As Lin Yi spoke, the man who set up the stall raised his head and saw Lin Yi. He was stunned for a moment before recognizing Lin Yi. Brother, you're here again? Did your wife give birth yet? Not yet, I'm just taking a stroll. Lin Yi smiled. Then go on with your business. I have someone else here. I can't talk to you anymore. The man nodded to Lin Yi and went back to his stall. Lin Yi's conversation with the stall owner stunned the shopkeeper. He didn't expect Lin Yi to have been in this line of work before. Alright, since we're in the same line of work, You should know the purchase price. The 150 is the purchase price. I don't earn much from it. How about you add 10 more to it? 160? Okay. Lin Yi nodded and took out his wallet to pay the bill. Meng Yao and Yushu suddenly realized that haggling prices was a very fun thing to do. Back in the mall, other than getting discounts with VIP cards, they'd never had the pleasure of haggling prices before. Seeing Lin Yi haggle, the two followed suit and started haggling at the next few stalls. They weren't able to get the lowest price for everything, but what surprised Lin Yi was that with Yushu's help, many of the items were sold at prices lower than Lin Yi had expected. However, they enjoyed the joy of bargaining and bought a bunch of useless things. For example, they bought more than 10 hair clips. They couldn't use them all, so they gave a few to Tang Yun. Tang Yun didn't want it at first, but Lin Yi nodded, indicating that she could accept it, so she accepted it. However, he still felt a little embarrassed. How's this look over there? Doesn't it look fun? Yushu pointed at a spot not too far away. Meng Yao raised her head and saw a group of people throwing sandbags. It seems like a game, throwing things with sandbags and you get what you hit. This kind of game was often seen in movies. Usually the good stuff would be placed at the back and it wouldn't be easy to get it. Let's go and see. Yushu was interested. Don't go, it's all a scam. Those things at the back are all rigged. My mother and I have been setting up a stall in the night market for more than a year, and we have never seen anyone win the big prize at the back. Only those small things at the front can be won and they are not worth much at all. No way. Is it their skills? Yushu saw that there were a lot of people playing and it didn't seem like rigging. I'm just guessing maybe they're just unlucky. Tang Yun saw that Yushu wasn't listening, so she couldn't do anything. My luck is super good, I'll go and see. Yushu pulled Meng Yao and ran towards the stall. They don't usually come to this kind of place, do they? Tang Yun shook her head helplessly. I don't think they've played here before. Lin Yi sighed. The miss is actually quite pitiful. Other than Shu, she doesn't have many friends and their lives are very fixed. The places they go to are also very fixed and they rarely try new things. You know her quite well? Tang Yun heard Lin Yi mention Meng Yao and she felt a little uncomfortable. Ha! Lin Yi shrugged. The miss probably doesn't have that kind of thoughts towards me. The reason why she's mad at you is because of her pride. Tang Yun paused. This was the first time Lin Yi talked about this directly. You'll know when you get to know her more. Lin Yi said, the miss is actually a very lonely person and she doesn't accept anyone easily. Once she accepts someone, she doesn't want to lose them easily. Am I her friend now? Anyway, I'm more pleasing to the eye than most people. Tang Yin nodded. Everyone had their own difficulties, and if what Lin Yi said was true, that Meng Yao looked like she lived in a rich family, but there wasn't much fun to be had. Haggling at the night market was a source of entertainment for her, and it was obvious how monotonous her life was. She wouldn't be like those rich kids on the internet, racing cars, flaunting their wealth, or doing something exciting, would she? Won't you know once you see it? Lin Yi shrugged. They don't even like to drive cars and they always let me be the driver. Why would they like to race? As for showing off their wealth, do you think they're different from you? Tang Yun shook her head. It did seem to be the case. Unconsciously, Tang Yun's impression of Meng Yao and Yushu improved a lot. Let's not talk about this, let's go and see. Lin Yi pointed at Yushu, who was already playing with the sandbag. He went to play after all. 10 kuai is like a waste of water. Although Tang Yun's family changed drastically because of Lin Yi's intervention, and they weren't as poor as they used to be, Tang Yun didn't have the habit of being extravagant. She was still careful with her money, and she didn't spend a single cent more than she should. 10 kuai for 10 sandbags, and Yushu finished throwing them in no time. Other than a pen holder, she didn't get anything else. Lin Yi looked at the pen holder. It was sold for 3 kuai at the wholesale market, and Yushu had lost 7 kuai in just a short time. Of course, it wasn't much to her. Meng Yao was slower and she only threw 3 sandbags, but she already hit a bracelet. Yao sis, I'll help you. Yushu went to Meng Yao after she lost her sandbag. Chapter 721. Oh, right away. Yushu threw a few more sandbags, but they all missed. The last one, however, landed on the biggest big wolf plushie in the last row. Oh yeah. I hit the jackpot. Yushu cheered, but she realized that the big wolf plushie only shook a little but didn't fall to the ground. Instead, it stood firmly on the shelf. What a shame, little girl, you almost hit the jackpot. This big wolf plushie is the real deal, it's different from those fakes. The owner looked at Yushu regretfully. You're too weak, use more strength next time. Impossible. I used a lot of strength, I can even kill a shark, how come I can't even throw a plushie? Yushu suddenly remembered Tang Yun's words and glared at the owner. Hey, did you do something to it? How is that possible? Don't talk nonsense, little girl. I've been doing business here for years and I've never cheated anyone. Last month someone even hit the jackpot. Ask these regular customers, I put a SpongeBob plushie here last month and this month it's a big wolf plushie. The owner said quickly. When the people around heard the boss's words, they all nodded in agreement. Last month it wasn't the big wolf plushie that was placed here. It was a SpongeBob SquarePants plushie. If it wasn't beaten up, how could it be replaced with a big wolf plushie? Then I'll try again. Yushu wasn't satisfied and spent another 10 kwai to buy 10 more sandbags. There's definitely something wrong. Tang Yun whispered to Lin Yi. Yeah, I can see that too, but it's rare that they're willing to play. They're always cooped up at home, it's rare for them to have fun like this. Lin Yi said. Yushu threw 4 or 5 sandbags and although she got a fishman plushie, it was too small to be worth much. It was the 6th sandbag and Yushu was lucky once more as she threw the big wolf plus, but it was the same as last time, it wobbled a couple of times before standing firmly in place. The owner didn't expect Yushu to be this lucky either and hit the big wolf plus, he was put in a spot. If she didn't use enough strength the first time, was she going to use enough strength the second time? It's a little far-fetched, isn't it? However, the boss was an experienced swindler after all. He lied without blinking an eye. I still don't have enough strength. Looks like you've used all your strength, but the distance is too far. I suggest you choose the smaller, medium-sized dolls in front of you. Yushu gritted her teeth in anger. She turned around and looked at Lin Yi. Shield bro, come and help Shu, I want that big wolf plushie. Well then I'll try. Lin Yi also suspected that there was something wrong with the big wolf doll, so he didn't refuse. The boss couldn't wait to get someone else to hit it. Yushu's luck was too good, she hit it twice in a row. If she couldn't hit it the third time it would mean that there was something wrong. He quickly added, yeah, it's a young man, he's stronger. Huh, don't tell me you only have one plushie? If I hit it, what about the others? Lin Yi thought that one plushie wasn't enough for everyone. At least one plushie for Meng Yao, Yushu and Tang Yun. I'm a businessman, how could I only have one? There's more, go ahead and hit it. The boss thought to himself. I've seen a lot of people like you who aren't full of confidence. In the end you still won't be able to hit anything. All right. Lin Yi said as he picked up a sandbag, tossing it out without even aiming. The boss looked at Lin Yi and couldn't help but look down on him. Was he trying to act cool? It'd be weird if he could hit it. Bang. The sandbag hit the big wolf plushie right in the middle, knocking it to the ground. Wah. The boss looked at the scene in disbelief. Was there really a ghost? How did he hit it? And he even hit it? He put a layer of foam glue on the shelf and it stuck to the bottom of the big wolf doll. Even if he hit it off, no one would notice because the foam glue was stuck to the shelf first. However, no one had ever hit it off before. Could it be that the foam glue lost its effectiveness after a long time? Or was it because the doll was hit by Yushu twice and it loosened? Was that why it was hit by Lin Yi in one hit? The boss was heartbroken, but there was nothing he could do. He couldn't go back on his words in front of so many people, could he? However, in order to attract customers, the boss used genuine dolls. One doll was worth a few hundred yuan, and he really didn't want to give it away just like that. Every once in a while, the boss would find someone to help him and pretend to drop the first prize. In fact, it was his own relatives who would take turns to pretend to be players and take the first prize away. In reality, it was just returning to his own home. After a period of time, when people had forgotten about this doll, he would put it out in a new plastic bag and let people think that he had a new product. No one would suspect anything. But today he failed. If he knew this was going to happen, he would have pretended to check it and strengthened the foam glue. Congratulations, young man, you are the first player to knock down the first prize this month. Although the boss was heartbroken, there were so many people watching. If he went back on his word, how could he do business in the future? He might as well give the doll to Lin Yi and advertise his stall. Is there anyone else who wants to play? Maybe the next grand prize winner will be you. You have to act fast. There will be one soon. Lin Yi took the big wolf doll and gave it to Yushu. Oh, Shield bro, you're amazing. Yushu happily took the big wolf doll. Meng Yao and Tang Yun were a bit envious, but they didn't say anything. Yushu, on the other hand, said after being happy, "Shield bro, you can't be biased. You have to give one to your first wife and girlfriend too." Lin Yi wanted to continue, but Yushu's words put Lin Yi in a difficult position. If he continued, wouldn't he be admitting that Meng Yao was the first wife? Tang Yun being the girlfriend was fine. "Shu, don't talk nonsense." Meng Yao kicked Yushu and said to Lin Yi, "Just give one to Tang Yun, I don't want one." Chapter 722. Hit another one. The owner, who was rearranging the prizes, heard Lin Yi's words and couldn't help but find it funny. "Aren't you afraid of losing your tongue? One for each person. Do you think you're a sharpshooter? You got lucky last time, but this time I'll add some foam glue. Let's see how you're going to continue." However, he only thought about it and couldn't say it out loud. When he turned around, his face was still full of smiles. "Huh, then I hope your dream comes true." The surrounding people saw Lin Yi's words and surrounded him curiously. They wanted to see if he was just bragging or if he had some skills. Lin Yi picked up another sandbag and threw it out casually. He didn't aim, he didn't even use his full strength. The crowd was disappointed, but the owner was secretly delighted. They thought that Lin Yi had already gotten the first prize and that the following sandbags would be considered as giving up, but something unexpected happened. Bang! Once again, it hit the Pleasant Goat plushie that the owner had just placed. Pleasant Goat didn't even shake and was directly hit by the sandbag that Lin Yi threw out. Ah! The owner let out a cry of despair, but it was instantly drowned out by the cheers of the surrounding crowd. "Amazing, he hit it again, this is amazing. Owner, I want to play too, give me a 10 yuan one. I want a 20 yuan one. I don't believe that I, Li Tianzhu, who is known as the unbeatable lucky star, can't lose to him." The owner painfully gave the Pleasant Goat plushie to Lin Yi, but he let out a sigh of relief when he heard the excited voices of the crowd. Fortunately, the advertising effect was obvious and it brought a lot of customers. Lin Yi took the plushie and gave it to Meng Yao. Tang Yun. The miss was a little embarrassed to accept it. Tang Yun was still here and Meng Yao felt that she shouldn't take the plushie first. Yushu already took one and it wouldn't be good if she took another. "Oh, there's still one sandbag left. I'll give her another one," Lin Yi said as he weighed the last sandbag. The boss, who was displaying the dolls, almost fainted when he heard Lin Yi's words. "You still want to fight one? Then wouldn't he still have to pay to death? Would he still be able to do business?" However, he couldn't stop Lin Yi from hitting. That way he wouldn't be able to do business. When others missed, you were happy to take the money, but when you hit, you didn't want others to continue hitting. How could there be such logic? Therefore, the boss could only grit his teeth and pray that Lin Yi would not hit him. If he were to lose 3 dolls in a day, then all his hard work over the past few days would have been in vain. However, the reality would not go as he prayed. If his prayers were really useful, he would have become a millionaire long ago and would not have to set up a stall here. Bang! The last sandbag hit the biggest doll without any suspense. It was a little tanuki doll. The boss almost had a heart attack. He felt that he was going to faint. Fortunately, he knew that if he really fainted, then he would become a laughing stock. He could only endure the pain and pass the little tanuki doll to Lin Yi and congratulate him. "Young man, you're really good. 3 consecutive championships." "Oh, it's all right," Lin Yi said faintly as he took the little tanuki doll and passed it to Tang Yun. "This is for you." Compared to Xiangyang and Big Wolf, Tang Yun liked little tanuki more. Seeing that Lin Yi gave her little tanuki, she couldn't help but be happy. "Thank you." "Oh, Shield bro, you're so good. Do you want to buy another 10 yuan? Yushu saw the boss's forced smile and asked with a smirk. "Hey Shu, let's go look at other things and give the opportunity to others," Chu Meng Yao said. Meng Yao knew when to stop. It wasn't easy to run a small business like this, and these dolls cost more than 1,000 kuai. The boss must have been heartbroken. However, Chu Meng Yao wouldn't give him any compensation. Business was like this, there were losses and there were profits. Her daddy didn't always make money. Lin Yi didn't have the intention to continue throwing sandbags. He left the sandbag throwing stall with Chu Meng Yao, Yushu and Tang Yun. The boss finally let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that standing by the river would always get one's shoes wet. His foam glue wasn't safe either. But if he lost money, then so be it. Didn't he attract so many people? The boss didn't believe that there would be people as strong as Lin Yi. Wouldn't he earn it back? As expected with Lin Yi's example, the boss got a blessing in disguise. More and more people came to throw sandbags. In a blink of an eye, the boss had a few hundred yuan in his account. What he gave out was only a few dozen yuan. This made the boss smile from ear to ear again. However, it was too early for him to be happy. Not long after Lin Yi left, another young man hit the first prize. The biggest doll. He just didn't hit it. The young man was obviously unhappy. I hit it too. Why didn't it drop? Your hand strength isn't good. That young man just now has strong hand strength. The boss thought. How could he let you hit it every time? How could I do business then? My hand strength is weak. I'm a fitness coach at XX Fitness Center. Why don't I believe that my hand strength is stronger than that pretty boy just now? The young man widened his eyes in disbelief and said, Did you do something to it? What can I do? That person just now got 3 first prizes. Everyone saw it. The boss said with a guilty conscience. Yeah, why did he hit 3? I know. He must have been hired by you. You deliberately let us see that he won a prize to attract us to spend money, right? The young man questioned. Impossible. I don't even know them. The boss was confident this time. He really didn't know Lin Yi and the others. If that's the case, then let me check the doll to see if there's any problem. The young man still didn't believe it. He pushed the boss away and walked to the shelf where he put things. You can't just come in. The boss quickly stopped him, but how could he be the opponent of the young man, the fitness coach? He quickly pushed it to the side. The young man tried to grab the biggest doll, but he couldn't grab it. He was suddenly stunned. He tried to grab it again, but he saw a lot of foam glue on the shelf below the doll. After the young man saw it, he sneered, Great? Is this how you lie? It's all foam glue below. No matter how strong a person's hand strength is, it's impossible to move the foam glue from so far away. Aren't you lying? Chapter 723. Business to disgust. Who are you trying to fool? You definitely didn't stick it on. The young man naturally didn't believe the boss' words. If the boss was able to trick people with so much foam glue, how could he possibly believe his words? I really did. The boss's heart went cold. He was exposed just like that. How could he do business in the future? I don't care if you stuck it on or not. Refund me. I've spent 30 kwai here already. The young man was getting impatient. He didn't want to listen to the boss's explanation anymore. All right, I'll refund it right now. The boss wanted to keep the peace. After all, he was no match for the fitness trainer. We want a refund too. Hurry up and give me a refund. I was playing here yesterday. Me too, I played here the day before yesterday. I played here half a year ago, I'll refund it too. The boss fainted on the ground, foaming at the mouth. His money box was emptied, and those who didn't get any money went to his dolls and gifts. In an instant there was nothing left of the stall. When the boss woke up, he realized that he had nothing left. However, who could be blamed for this? It was his fault for being dishonest in business. Lin Yi naturally didn't know that the boss was so unlucky after he left, but Lin Yi wouldn't care even if he knew. What did it have to do with Lin Yi? At that moment, Lin Yi was already in front of the mushroom stall with the miss and shoe. This isn't healthy, it's best not to eat it. Tang Yun couldn't help but remind the 2 girls when she saw how excited they were. You guys can make it at home if you want. That's right, Shield Bro, do you know how to make mushrooms? Yushi thought about it. The things outside weren't clean after all. Who knew if it was some unwashed mushrooms or gutter oil? Probably. Lin Yi only needed to watch the owner do it once to learn it. Then you can make it for us from now on. We won't come out to eat. Yushi was overjoyed. She could finally eat delicious fried mushrooms at home. Tang Yun rubbed her forehead, a little annoyed. She was looking for trouble for no reason. She was causing trouble for Lin Yi. Yushi wasn't in the mood to eat anymore now that she knew that Lin Yi knew how to fry mushrooms. She wouldn't have to stuff herself to death if she could eat mushrooms every day. After eating the mushrooms, Lin Yi saw that it was about time to send Tang Yun back to the hospital. With the Miss and Yushu there, Lin Yi couldn't do anything with Tang Yun. It was a bit awkward with 4 people together. Tang Yun had the same idea as Lin Yi and agreed to Lin Yi's suggestion. Both Meng Yao and Yushu were with Lin Yi after all, and they'd gotten a lot out of it. They didn't want to keep strolling around. They had school tomorrow and they wouldn't be able to wake up if they stayed up too late. Yutian and Ling Shan left Jiang Wen's room. Ling Shan frowned. This friend of yours is a bit weird. There seems to be a reason why his kidney was cut off. I haven't been in contact with him for years. If I didn't come back for business this time, I wouldn't have contacted him. Yu Tian shook his head, but House An's strength hasn't been weak these years. They're slowly becoming the strongest among the 5 small houses. They're just doing some dirty tricks to get rich. I'll deal with them sooner or later. Ling Shan said faintly. Let's have a meal together. Do you have time? Yu Tian asked Ling Shan after leaving the hospital. Nope, there's a lot of cases. I don't want to waste time. Ling Shan rejected directly. Plus, I'm wearing the uniform. I need to change. It's too troublesome. Actually, I have some business to discuss with you. Yu Tian was full of confidence this time. He came to Songshan for a secret mission, but there was a part where he needed to cooperate with the local police. After asking for permission from his superiors, he decided to contact Ling Shan. But according to the procedure, Yu Tian had to contact the local police chief first. But Yu Tian had already told Huaijuan about it, and Ling Shan was the captain of the criminal investigation department. She was in charge of this, so it was a valid reason. Business? Ling Shan paused. If it's business, let's talk in my office. Forget about the meal. It's probably dinner time now. We can't talk about business on an empty stomach, can we? Yu Tian smiled bitterly. Alright, let's have some fast food then. Ling Shan said faintly, there's a cafeteria in the hospital. Alright. Yu Tian didn't have a choice. Fast food, at least they could eat together. The only problem was that it wasn't romantic at all. The two arrived at the hospital cafeteria. Ling Shan was wearing a police uniform, and Yu Tian was also wearing an armed police uniform, but no one noticed them. Most of the police officers were stationed in the hospital these days, and it was normal for them to eat in the cafeteria. Yu Tian wanted to go to the private room and order some dishes, but Ling Shan bought 2 fast foods straight away. Yu Tian couldn't say anything and he could only smile bitterly. What's the matter? Just say it. Ling Shan found a quiet corner and placed the food on the table. He looked at Yu Tian. If you're looking for me for business, you should contact my director first. I've already told Huaijuan. Yu Tian naturally wouldn't give Ling Shan an excuse to reject him. Alright, Lieutenant Chen. Is there anything we can help with? Ling Shan nodded. Yu Tian didn't know what to do with Ling Shan's tone. Couldn't Ling Shan talk to him like a friend? We discovered an artifact smuggling group when we were patrolling the border. They had a fierce fight with us when we were crossing the border. The leader is the famous husband and wife thief in the black market. Yu Tian briefly explained the cause of the incident. You should be working with the local police and relics department, not Songshan's police, right? Ling Shan naturally had heard of the couple before. They were a famous group of grave robbers and the leader was a man and a woman. In fact, the arrest warrant for the burglar couple had already been issued, but no one knew the true faces of the burglar couple. These 2 people always wore masks, so no one knew their true identities. Having them explore the path first will also provide our archaeologists with information and convenience. What do you need our help with? Ling Shan understood what Yu Tian meant. This mission was a bit dangerous. Not only did they have to catch the grave robbers, but they also had to explore the tomb with them. According to the couple's notebook, when they first explored the tomb, they found it to be extremely dangerous. But the more dangerous a tomb is, the more treasures there are, and so they didn't want to give up. They didn't have the confidence to enter, Yu Tian said, so they contacted a famous archaeologist in the country, Lu Bojia. Lu Bojia? Ling Shan paused when she heard the name. You're talking about our Songshan's Lu Bojia? The freelance explorer Lu Bojia? That's right, that's him. Yu Tian nodded and continued. Lu Bojia is a freelance explorer in name, a special reporter and writer for many magazines, but in reality he has connections with the grave robbers. Lu Bojia's family was attacked by a psycho murderer a while ago. You know about this too? Ling Shan realized. You're looking for us because of this Lu Bojia? That's right, Lu Bojia has always been in the hands of the Songshan police. If we want to find the tomb, we have to start with Lu Bojia. Only he knows the location of the tomb. Yu Tian said. Those grave robbers, including the couple, found Lu Bojia and wanted to use him to enter the tomb. However, Lu Bojia gave up on working with them after a precise investigation. He said that the tomb was too dangerous, so he chose to withdraw from the mission. But they were afraid that Lu Bujia would leak the information, or that he would take the treasure after they gave up, so they chose to kill him. So that's how it is. No wonder Lu Bujia didn't want to cooperate with the police. He must know the reason why he was attacked, but if he told the truth he'd be dragged into the mess as well. His crime wouldn't be light either. Lingshan finally understood what Bujia was worried about. He was a tomb raider in the dark. Did Lu Bujia leave any statement or message? Qin Yutian asked. No, he didn't want to cooperate with us. We didn't think too much about it at first, but we didn't know that there was such a big secret behind it. Lingshan shook her head, feeling regretful. She would have protected Lu Bujia no matter what if she knew this would happen. How's Lu Bujia's condition now? I heard from Huaijuan that he's not doing well? Yutian sighed. All the clues were focused on Lu Bujia. Something really happened to him. Where would they find the tomb with so many mountains and rivers around Songshan? He hasn't woken up yet. He's being kept alive by the ventilator. Lingshan suddenly thought of Lin Yi. Didn't that guy promise to treat Lu Bujia? Why was there no news? He couldn't have forgotten about it, could he? From the looks of it, it was very possible. Lingshan had been troubled by the kidney trafficking company's case recently, so she temporarily put Lu Bujia's matter aside. She didn't ask Lin Yi about it, but Lin Yi acted as if it didn't matter at all. Chapter 725. Make him give up. Things are getting complicated now. Yutian frowned. What did the doctor say? The doctor can't do anything for sure. Lingshan shook her head. Yutian wasn't an idiot. He could tell from Lingshan's words that the doctor couldn't do anything, but from Lingshan's tone, it seemed like someone else had a way? He asked, surprised. Lingshan, there's another way? Call me Song Lingshan or Officer Song. Lingshan wasn't happy with the way Yutian addressed her. How dare he call her Lingshan? All right, Lingshan. Do you have another way? Yutian said helplessly. I don't. But someone else does. Lingshan got a headache thinking about Lin Yi. Was she supposed to ask Lin Yi for Yutian's case? It was fine if it was for herself, but for Yutian. Man, favors were things that were hard to come by. Acting like Miss Braindead and Miss Dumbass wasn't something new anymore. What if Lin Yi got annoyed? But for business and personal reasons, Lingshan couldn't just ignore it. Officially, he had a part in this case as well. After all, the armed police cooperated with the local police. Privately, he didn't care about his relationship with Qin Yutian. Solving this case would be a great achievement for him. Although it was a joint operation, no one could take the credit away from the local police. Is it troublesome? Yutian asked carefully. It's all right. Let me make a call. Lingshan sighed. It seemed like she had to call Lin Yi herself and let Yutian talk to his sister and Lin Yi. Maybe that would work, but it didn't seem reliable. She was the one who asked Lin Yi for help first, and if she let Yutian get involved now, Lin Yi might think that she was using Yutian to pressure him. Yutian nodded. Lingshan called Lin Yi, feeling a little uneasy. She regretted calling him in front of Yutian. What if Lin Yi didn't agree? Wouldn't she have to act coquettishly? It wouldn't be good if Qin Yutian heard this. He had always been a strong girl. She had never behaved like this since she was young. If word of this got out, she would lose a lot of face. But before she could think about it, Lin Yi picked up the phone. Lin Yi was on the way back to the hospital. Hello? I'm Lingshan. You promised me that you'd treat Lu Bujia. How's it going? Lingshan asked carefully. Who is Lu Bujia? Lingshan's guess was right. Lin Yi had forgotten about Lu Bujia a long time ago, and Lingshan didn't bring it up either. Why would he have the time to remember things like that? It's the one in the hospital, the one who got hurt by that crazy murderer. Lingshan explained. That person? It won't be easy to save him. Let's leave it at that. I still have things to do here. Lin Yi hung up the phone. Lin Yi had arrived at the hospital and parked his car. He had to say goodbye to Tang Yun. He didn't have the confidence to save Bujia before because the guy was too heavily injured. But after what happened to Xiao Xiao and Meng Yao as well as his own injuries, he realized that the energy within his body could quickly heal his own and other people's injuries. Lu Bujia's injuries were too severe, and it would consume most of Lin Yi's energy. Lin Yi didn't need to drop a level for him. Although he could recover in one night, this person wasn't related to him at all. Why would Lin Yi waste his energy to save him? Lingshan was a little annoyed that Lin Yi hung up on her, but she got some information from Lin Yi's words. Lin Yi said that it wasn't easy to save him, not impossible. Did that mean there was hope? Ling Shan hesitated and called Lin Yi again. Yu Tian, on the other hand, didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Normally, powerful people had a temper. Asking them for help wasn't something that could be done with just a phone call. Lin Yi sent Tang Yun off and didn't expect Ling Shan to call him again. Lin Yi didn't go back to the car and picked up the call. Is there anything else? Good man, please help me. Ling Shan suddenly remembered that Yu Tian was right beside her. She was a little worried. But thinking about it, she decided to use this chance to make Yu Tian give up. With someone stronger than him as a comparison, Yu Tian wouldn't bother her anymore. It would solve a big problem. With that thought, Ling Shan calmed down. Miss Dummy needs your help. Can you save him for me? At most I'll repay you and cook for you? Yu Tian's eyes widened in shock. This was Ling Shan? Was he seeing things? Since when did Ling Shan become like this? If it weren't for the fact that the person in front of him was Ling Shan, Yu Tian would have thought that it was a girl acting cute to her boyfriend just from the voice alone. How was this possible? Yu Tian rubbed his eyes. He couldn't believe it. Ling Shan had always been a strong person. How did she become like this? Could it be that the person on the phone was a girl? But it didn't seem like it. Ling Shan's tone sounded like she was talking to a man, and she even called herself Miss Dummy? Yu Tian's heart almost exploded when he heard that. Ling Shan calling herself Miss Dummy? Wasn't this too surprising? Settle. It was obviously a term of endearment between lovers. Lin Yi was speechless at Ling Shan's begging, but his heart softened. All right, I'll go take a look tomorrow when I'm free. That's great. Thank you so much. Ling Shan said, trying to sound as sweet and coy as she could. You're welcome. All right, I'll be hanging up. Lin Yi hung up and went back to the car. Ling Shan let out a long sigh of relief. Hey, done. This move worked every time Lin Yi gave in as soon as she acted cute. It wasn't bad at all. Ling Shan was feeling pleased with herself when she remembered that Yu Tian was still sitting in front of her. Her face froze. Ling Shan. Yu Tian looked at Ling Shan in disbelief. What? Is there a problem? Ling Shan decided to attack Yu Tian a little, and her expression became more natural. Just now? The person you called? Yu Tian couldn't help but ask. That's my personal business, Ling Shan said faintly. It has nothing to do with the case, right? That? Of course not. Yu Tian smiled bitterly, his face a little disappointed. Ling Shan had a boyfriend. Chapter 726. Ling Shan's boyfriend? Ling Shan had gone through so much trouble to beg Lin Yi, and naturally she wouldn't just let someone else take the credit for nothing. If this tomb robbery case was solved smoothly, it'd be a huge achievement for her as well. Of course. Yu Tian, on the other hand, wanted to do the mission with Ling Shan, but Ling Shan's phone call made him hesitant. Since there's nothing else, can Major Chen leave now? Ling Shan looked at Yu Tian. Can I ask something personal after the business? Yu Tian didn't want to give up. What personal? Ling Shan knew what Yu Tian wanted to ask, but she said, but you can ask and I can choose not to answer. It's like this, the person you called, is he your boyfriend? Yu Tian decided to give up. Not yet, but I'm going after him. Ling Shan said after some thought. Are going after him? Yu Tian's eyes went wide. What can't I? Ling Shan laughed in her heart. You should give up now, right? It's not that I can't, it's just a little weird. Yu Tian shook his head. You didn't sound like you when you called. Is he a doctor? I guess so. Ling Shan said the truth. Lin Yi wasn't a professional doctor, at most half one. Guess so. Yu Tian paused, not understanding what she meant. Didn't you say that you'd find a man stronger than you? He's a doctor, how can he be stronger than you? Yu Tian wasn't convinced. Ling Shan wasn't trying to trick him, was she? She said she'd find a man stronger than her. Why did she find a doctor as her boyfriend? Stronger than me? Who told you doctors can't be stronger than me? Ling Shan frowned. Your logic is problematic, and he's not a doctor either. He's just a guest. Guest? Yu Tian smiled bitterly. Does that mean I don't have a chance? You never had one, Ling Shan said without hesitation. First, I don't like men like you. Secondly, I've already broken through to the late phase of the golden class. Do you think you can surpass me? Late phase of the golden class. Yu Tian took a deep breath. How many days had it been? Ling Shan had just touched the barrier of late phase golden class a few days ago. And now she was already late phase golden class? This kind of terrifying leveling speed was rare even among the aristocratic families. You don't believe me? Ling Shan's chi gathered together, and the aura she released made Yu Tian's heart skip a beat. Golden class late phase after all. I do. Yu Tian sighed, but your friend is stronger than you? He helped me break through. Ling Shan couldn't help but blush as she remembered the scene in the basement that day. She felt her body heat up. She'd actually broken through under that kind of shameful situation. However, it made sense to say that Lin Yi helped him break through. After all, he was fantasizing about Lin Yi at that time. It seems like I really can't compare to him. Yu Tian basically gave up on Ling Shan. Right, he's not an old man, is he? Then let's buy a better one. Tang Yun knew that the money was about the same as what Lin Yi gave them. Lin Yi could have asked Li Zihua for 3 million, and the medical fees for her father was just an excuse for Lin Yi to give them money. Chapter 727. Chapter 727. House Chen's Crisis. What do you say we buy a retail house? If the district's big, we can open a barbecue shop. That'll be enough for us to eat and drink, right? Mrs. Tang asked. That's fine. You and Dad don't have anything to do anyways, we might as well start a business. Tang Yin nodded. 3 million, that's 100,000 in interest a year. What are you going to do to earn that? Juqing was meticulous in his calculations, thinking that it'd be safer to keep the money in the bank. That's true. Mrs. Tang hesitated as well, not knowing what to do. Your dad's right. If we keep the money in the bank, we'll get a lot of interest a year too. But I don't really understand. Maybe we should ask Lin Yi tomorrow? Let's see what he says. Tang Yin had never seen so much money before. She didn't know how to manage money, and she didn't dare suggest anything. She'd ask Lin Yi tomorrow. The night passed peacefully, and he was woken up by Ling Shan's call the next morning. He looked at the time on his phone. It was only 5:30. Pissing him off, he'd been training in the Jade and now he was interrupted like this. What's wrong with you? Why are you calling so early in the morning? Lin Yi roared into the phone. Ling Shan felt wronged. It was already 5:30 and it wasn't early anymore. It was important for practitioners to wake up early to train, and Ling Shan had always been like this for 20 years. Don't you need to wake up early to train? Train my ass. Lin Yi was a little troubled. Don't compare yourself to others. I've always been a person who wakes up naturally. You're interested in my sister? Ling Shan blinked. I've never even seen her. What's there to be interested in? Lin Yi was speechless at Ling Shan's logic. Do you have something to do? Yeah, didn't you promise me to go to the hospital to see Lu Buojia? Ling Shan said carefully. I'm ready, then wait for me at the hospital. Lin Yi yawned, remembering what Ling Shan said yesterday. I'll be there in a bit. Okay, you didn't have breakfast, right? Can you let little silly girl help you with something? Ling Shan was afraid that Lin Yi wouldn't try his best, and even if he could cure her, he'd find it troublesome to lie to her and say that he couldn't cure her. So Ling Shan was trying her best to please Lin Yi. Then do something, Lin Yi said before hanging up. Lin Yi was already used to Ling Shan's attentiveness. After getting up, Lin Yi found something in the kitchen and made a pot of lean meat porridge for Meng Yao and Yushu. He set the timer and left the house. Lin Yi agreed to buy a house with Tang Yun's family today, so he had to go to the hospital to deal with Lu Buojia as soon as possible. He didn't have time to wait for Kanji to eat breakfast at home. He drove the van to the Songshan's First People's Hospital and Lin Yi called Ling Shan. You're here? Ling Shan was pleasantly surprised. She didn't think that Lin Yi would come so soon. It seemed that Lin Yi was quite considerate of her, not letting her lose face in front of Yu Tian. Yu Tian came to the hospital early this morning. He didn't sleep well the whole night. The fact that Ling Shan had an admirer made him very disappointed. He knew that he basically had no hope, and so he wanted to see how strong the man she liked was. Of course, he still had the right to challenge him. If he could surpass him one day. I'm here in the parking lot of the hospital. Where are you? Lin Yi asked. I'm at the 3rd ward, the ICU on the top floor, room 2119, Ling Shan said. Okay, I'll go now. Lin Yi got off the car and walked to the 3rd ward. Yu Tian, who was beside Ling Shan, heard that the man she was after was coming, and he couldn't help but get nervous. Ling Shan, he's here? Almost there, Lingshan nodded. She didn't like Yutian's nervousness. Why couldn't he be a little more manly? Even if she was stronger than him, there was no need to be this nervous, was there? Yutian nodded. He felt like a failure pursuing Lingshan for so many years, and it all ended in failure. But he chose the wrong direction from the start. He walked the path of a spoiled young master, and Lingshan didn't like him at all. When he wanted to use his strength to surpass Lingshan, he realized that he started too late. If it wasn't for the guidance of a famous teacher, he wouldn't even be able to break through golden class in this lifetime. Yutian was disappointed, but he didn't regret it. If it wasn't for Lingshan's words, he wouldn't have gotten so excited, and he wouldn't have chosen this path. Although he wasn't the strongest out of all the noble houses, early phase golden class wasn't weak. At least his grandpa wasn't disappointed in him. He was the only male in the third generation of House Chen, and Yushu couldn't possibly practice martial arts. If he didn't have strength, House Chen would probably be removed from the four noble houses by House Yu in a few years. So Yutian's sense of danger was quite strong. He was still young, and he didn't have to think so much when he was a spoiled young master, but now he had to. Other than the old man who used to be a famous person, there wasn't anyone in the third generation of House Chen who could stand firm. When the old master was young, he practiced external techniques. The characteristics of external techniques were different from internal techniques. The older one was, the purer their internal energy would be. However, when an external technique was old, if one's body wasn't good, they would become weaker and weaker. Old Chen's body wasn't too good now, and although he was at his peak at the middle phase of mystic class, who knew how much strength he had left? Wu Gonggao from House Wu had been jumping up and down these years, looking like he wanted to challenge old Chen, but in reality he just wanted to see how strong House Chen was. He wanted to see how much strength House Chen had left. After this period of time, it was time for some of the noble houses to be replaced. House Wu naturally wanted to get rid of House Chen, and then support a family that was on good terms with them. Didn't House Kong rely on House Wu recently? House Wu probably had this plan as well. So although House Chen looked good on the surface as one of the 5 small noble houses and the 4 big houses, their position was actually in danger. Qin Yutian knew this very well, and so did Elder Qin. This was also why old Qin supported Yutian's courtship with Lingshan. Once the Song and Qin families were united through marriage, then those people who were after House Qin wouldn't be as arrogant as they were now. Chapter 728. Breakfast with Love. The only thing Yutian could do now was to get on the good side of other noble houses and get a strong ally for House Chen, but this kind of ally wasn't very dependable. After all, they weren't related by marriage, and once there was a conflict of interest, it would be easy for them to collapse. So Yutian could only rely on himself. If he could break through to Mystic before the old man passed away, then House Chen would be able to survive for at least 100 years. But was it possible to break through the Mystic class? Lingshan was the leader of this generation, but she'd only just entered Golden Class late phase. House Song, on the other hand, had a strong foundation. The old man of House Song was only Golden Class late phase peak, but the old lady was already a mystic mid-phase spiritual practitioner. In fact, House Song's spiritual arts were more suitable for women. Among the younger generation of House Song, Lingshan's brother was only early phase Golden Class, and Lingshan's sister was also early phase Golden Class. It was impossible for him to marry Lingshan, and Yutian wanted to see just how strong the person Lingshan was talking about was. If House Song managed to rope in such a strong person, then House Song might even be able to take on House Yu. Linny came to the door and pushed it open. He paused when he saw Lingshan and Yutian standing in the guest room. Yutian was here too? Yutian's face froze when he saw that it was Lin Yi. Why was Instructor Eagle here? But then Yutian thought it through. Could it be that the strong practitioner Lingshan was talking about was Lin Yi? Yutian made sense now. Among the younger generation, who else could have such strength other than Lin Yi? If Lin Yi could help him break through Golden Class, why couldn't he help Lingshan? But Yutian had always treated Lin Yi as a high and mighty instructor, and never treated him as someone of the same generation. In Yutian's eyes, Lin Yi was like a god. So when Qin Yutian was thinking about the elites of the younger generation, he didn't even consider Lin Yi on the same level. Now that he saw Lin Yi, he realized that Lin Yi was younger than him. Naturally, he was the leader of the younger generation. Linny didn't know what Song Lingshan told Yutian, so Linny didn't feel awkward when he saw Yutian. He nodded. Yutian bro, you're here too. Yutian smiled bitterly. I'm one of the people in charge of this case, so I'm here as well. Yutian smiled bitterly. I'm one of the people in charge of this case, so I'm here too. Qin Yutian didn't even have the intention to challenge Lin Yi. He wouldn't be able to surpass Lin Yi even if he had another 100 years. If Lingshan really did end up with Lin Yi, then it wouldn't be a bad ending at all, and House Song would rise again. No one knew Lin Yi's strength better than Yutian. He believed that Lingshan saw this too, and that was why she took the initiative to pursue Lin Yi. Otherwise, with Lingshan's strong personality, if the man wasn't so much stronger than her, why would she take the initiative to pursue him? She even cooked for him, and her tone was so gentle when she called him. Only Lin Yi had the right to do this. But suddenly, Qin Yutian froze as he remembered something. His sister seemed to have a special relationship with Lin Yi. She even said that she wanted to be his mistress? What was going on? Yutian didn't believe his sister's words. Yushu rarely spoke the truth, and no one could tell if she was lying or not. She was like this since she was young, but Yutian still went into deep thought. Could Lingshan be his sister's competitor? But Yutian shook his head. His sister was only a 12th grader, wasn't it too early to think about these things? You didn't have breakfast, right? Lingshan took out a thermos and gave it to Lin Yi. I made breakfast for you, have some first? Lin Yi nodded and took the thermos, opening it on the coffee table. Lingshan's cooking skills, on the other hand, surprised Lin Yi. This tigress knew how to cook. And it looked like it was not bad. There were a few jujube cakes, 2 fried eggs and some pickled vegetables in the thermos. It was obvious that it wasn't a ready-made product. Song Lingshan must have made it early in the morning. Lin Yi quickly finished the food in the thermos. It tasted good, and he praised, I didn't know that your cooking skills were not bad. You're not useless after all. The first part of the sentence made Lingshan extremely happy, but the second part almost made her explode from anger. What did he mean by she wasn't a good-for-nothing? Did she have no other ability other than cooking? She was a golden class late phase master now, and in Lin Yi's eyes she was only good at cooking? But Song Lingshan didn't dare to say anything. She was afraid that she'd anger Lin Yi and drive him away. That would have wasted her breakfast, and the silly girl from yesterday would have gone down the drain. It'd be too late for regrets. She could only smile. You like it, so I always cook for you? As for other things, don't I have you to help me? You don't have to worry about it. We'll talk about it later. Let's take a look at that Lu Bojia first. Lin Yi didn't reply to Lingshan's word. Ever since that incident in the dungeon, their relationship had been weird. He didn't know what she was thinking, but Lin Yi was afraid that he wouldn't be able to resist the temptation if he were to reply. Of course, the temptation was small, but the trouble was big. If something really happened between him and Song Lingshan, it'd be endless. And let's take a look at the patient first. Lingshan was overjoyed. Lin Yi finally asked to see the patient. Yutian, on the other hand, was so shocked that his eyeballs were about to fall out. It was said that women would change for the man they liked, and it seemed to be true. Lingshan was like a completely different person. Lin Yi still had to accompany Tang Yun's family to buy a house later, so he didn't have much time. Naturally, he had to settle this as soon as possible. Lingshan and Yutian followed Lin Yi into the ICU, not daring to say anything. They only watched as Lin Yi examined Lu Bojia's injuries. Chapter 729. Being brothers, Lin Yi wouldn't have cared about Bojia's life if Miss Song didn't make it sound so nice. Lin Yi checked Bojia's injuries again. It was the same as before, not getting any worse. But then again, it was good enough that he was able to use the ventilator until now. Lin Yi didn't say much and turned to Lingshan and Yutian. Get someone to take off his gown. I'm going to do the acupuncture. I'll do it. Yutian didn't decline and volunteered to take off Bojia's gown. Lingshan was a girl and naturally couldn't do it, so she watched from afar. Lu Bojia's hospital gown was loose, so Qin Yutian took it off easily. Lin Yi nodded and signaled Yutian to step back. He took out a box of silver needles. Lin Yi bought this last night. He used the previous box on Li Delay and it wasn't cheap. He had to get it back from Xihua another day. The silver needles pierced into Bojia's body. Lin Yi didn't want to heal him completely. He chose to use his own energy to heal the fatal injuries. To prevent Xiao Xiao from draining his energy dry, Lin Yi used the needles to seal a few of Bujia's meridians. This way he could selectively transfer energy to different parts of Bujia's body. As for the other injuries, wasn't there a hospital? He could just lie in the room and slowly recover. Lin Yi transferred energy into Bujia's body and healed the fatal injuries. Lin Yi breathed out in relief. Bujia needed far less energy than Xiao Xiao, similar to the Mississippi. This way he wouldn't need too much energy to heal all of Bujia's injuries. However, Lin Yi didn't do so. Firstly, it would be too shocking. Secondly, Lin Yi didn't owe Lu Bujia anything. It was good enough that he treated Lu Bujia like this. In the words of the old man at home, a thief would not leave empty-handed. Even if he made a move, he had to be paid for it. He couldn't make a move for free, right? Alright, he should wake up in the afternoon. Lin Yi removed the silver needles from Lu Bujia's body. The entire process took less than 10 minutes. So simple. Lingshan watched as Lin Yi inserted a couple of needles and massaged Bujia's body a couple of times. Just like that. If that was the case, then why was this fellow still making excuses in front of him? What was the meaning of this? To him this was as easy as lifting a finger, but he tricked her into pretending to be a silly girl several times. Lin Yi rolled his eyes and said, "If you think it's easy, then why don't you do it? How much true qi did I lose to infuse into his body? If I had infused it into your body, you might have leveled up again." Lin Yi was just mocking Lingshan for not using her brain, but Lingshan felt conflicted after hearing Lin Yi's words. Lin Yi was actually using true qi to treat Lu Bujia? Wasn't that too extravagant? Could it be that Lin Yi's true qi could be used by other people? Okay, then we're good brothers from now on. Although Qin Yutian had given up, his tone was still bitter when he said that. How's Grandpa Qin? Lingshan hadn't visited old Qin in a long time. Ever since she knew that old Qin wanted to propose marriage, the relationship between the two became much more distant. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.